On this episode of the Flophouse, another current release, it's Cats!
That's right, it's the first annual Flophouse Catstacular Catstravaganza with special guests Natalie Walker and Jenny Jaffe.
Women!
Live.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
Oh, hey there, Dan McCoy. I'm Little Stewie Wellington.
Oh.
And over here is Big Elliot Kalin, the fiercest lumberjack of the Northwest.
And who do you have next to you, Elliot?
Sitting next to me, it's...
Jenny Jaffe!
That's right, everybody, returning guest Jenny Jaffe. And Dan, who's sitting next to you?
Who is it? It's Natalie Walker.
Natalie Walker!
I don't know. I wanted you to...
We didn't practice
say
this
your
bit,
own
Elliot.
name.
You
No,
messed us up.
Just a legendary cats freak.
Yeah.
I think it's very fitting that there are so many of us to introduce, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
because each of us has a song to sing about our names and also our characteristics, which are strangely enough almost the same characteristics all the other ones of us have, but we all get our own songs.
I'm
all
Janine
can do
Jaffe, on a
magic.
podcast cat.
I'm Paul F. Tompkins, the podcast guest cat.
I mean, he's kind of dressed like a...
He
well,
is dressed
I mean,
like
you
a
know.
jellicle cat already.
Yeah.
He's dressed like a Bustopher Jones.
He's
sure.
a full Bustopher Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes into the tailor
so-
and he says, "Give me the full Bustopher."
How long are we going to wait into the show before we start deciding which character we are?
I think we have
I
to
mean, we can
introduce
do it
the
whenever you
characters.
want to.
I'm just saying. I
So
think
we should
I'm
just do it now, Stu? But to get it off there.
Yeah, I want to get.
It's the cat in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty clearly a rum tum tugger sort.
Goes without saying. I like to think of myself as a regular Skimbleshanks, a railway cat.
Wow.
that just
Oh,
tucks
yeah,
away
yeah, yeah.
tonight.
And what's the name of the
You're Gus the
the
theater cat.
cranky barge cat?
Oh,
That's
Growl Tiger?
That
my
kinda half
favorite
sings the thing.
character.
Growl Tiger, and he does a slant rhyme that gets called
Yep.
out.
That was such a surprise. I mean, not to jump ahead, but I was so happily surprised to see British like crime movie feature
Ray
Ray Winstone to show up.
It was the moment Ray Winstone shows up a Growl Tiger, and I was like, is he going to sing a song too? And then he does. I was like,
Gets
yes.
When he showed up, I'm
immediately
like,
shut down.
is he gonna kill somebody?
Dan, I think you are very clearly Mr. Mistopheles, the cat who lacks confidence, but everyone believes in
You
him.
know what?
And in the end, he gets
I
the
don't.
job done.
I was going to get to this later on, so but I feel like since you've slandered me with that, I need to say
Why
that,
is that slander? Mistopheles is the hottest one in this whole movie.
yeah, but I got this kind of like real like nice guy energy from Mr. Mistopheles. I didn't like
yeah.
he
Yeah,
was really
exactly.
like
Oh, yeah,
hanging
'cause
out trying to impress Victoria the whole time. Like surely if I save her from a dog, she'll love me. And
Yeah, but
I
when
didn't
he-
care for that.
when he starts when he starts doing his thing, man, he's like flying and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
he
true.
was
He's making
shooting
roses
cars,
fly out of
yeah.
flying trombones. Okay, Dan, you know what you are? You're Munkus Trap, the narrator cat who's so boring he doesn't even get named in the movie.
It's true.
His own song. He can only say interesting things about other cats. but
He's-
there's
That was his
no
curse.
discerning quality.
He's also there to
him.
lead Victoria, our audience surrogate cat, gently by the hand to see the next character.
I wish that she had a song where she was like, Victoria's an audience surrogate cat.
Yeah.
And I'll look at that. And I'll look at that. Like that kind of thing.
What?
Now,
So
Natalie-
did we mention what we do on this podcast?
Well,
yet?
hold on, Natalie. Just,
Before we do that, more stuff.
yeah, before we just,
Before we do that, I also want to say I am Taylor Swift's ballerina because I just want to show up and do one song and think I'm really sexy but not be that good at dancing. Sort of
No
it, while
question.
other people dance around me well, and I'm sort of like giving face while doing it, but not
Yeah.
actually doing a good job.
She's animated strangely.
Oh yeah, she's the only one with boobs.
And it was weird that she suddenly showed up and was like, "Oh, cats can have boobs, huh? All right, I guess that was in her contract." And Jenny, which cat are you?
So I actually thought that you and I maybe were the mischief cats because I have a feeling we might be very obnoxious to work with.
Yeah, that's true. Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser.
Yeah.
You know, I had a real problem listening to that song just because every time they said Mungo Jerry, I just kept thinking of the band that did In the Summertime. And I was like, I had to look it up later. I'm like, of course, because that's from the 70s. Mungo Jerry took its name from the T.S. Eliot poem, just like cats took those names from the T.S. Eliot poem. But I'm like, okay, this is weird. It'd be like if one of the cats was just named Led Zeppelin right in the middle of it.
Like many of the characters in the early issues of the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure comic book, where there's a character named REO Speedwagon, there's a character named Dio, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so Dan, what do we do on this podcast now that we've talked about cat names for a little bit?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about the naming of cats later on, I think, too. But right now, this is a podcast where we watch a bad movie, and then we talk about it. And
this is a movie that's currently in theaters, and we have all seen it at least once in the theater.
And we're going to be doing something a little different.
Wait, we see a bad movie and then we talk about it, right?
Yeah, I said that, Elliot.
I didn't hear you say it.
Well, you constantly don't listen to me. But
how Mungo Jerry of you.
I guess so.
What was I saying? Oh, you've derailed my train. I was saying that
Just
we're
like,
gonna...
hey,
That's
that's
not
what
your
Skimbleshanks
job.
to do.
That's why you can't be Skimbleshanks.
No, Skimbleshanks keeps that train on the track so he can tap dance along it at the time when cats are about an inch tall, as opposed to other parts of the movie where cats are a foot tall.
I saw a picture on the internet of the actor who plays Skimbleshanks, but it was a full body nude, and that guy's ass cheeks are like two giant hams.
Because he's a ballet dancer.
Yeah.
That's where his whole body, all his muscles are in his thighs and his glutes.
Yeah, which makes it a shame that they
to put
dress him up
pants on
like a
him.
fucking Mario brother, right?
That he's
it's
one of the
like
few
a
cats that
weird
wears
thing.
pants.
I feel like it was so horny for most of it, but then I feel like there were some bodies that they were like, if we just have this guy's ass out, it's like we have to push it into PG-13.
Yeah. So they went as far as the other direction as they could, because he kind of leaps into the movie like, whee!
Yeah, he like leaps in, and he's in like so many clothes.
Yeah.
I really felt like this movie was my monkey's paw wish to see Idris Elba naked.
Yeah, it's like, oh, did you want it like this?
I did not.
It seems like a strange choice to me, just jumping into that Macavity, the evil cat, who is... His trademark look is a trench coat for most of the movie. When it's time for him to do his big dance, he doesn't have it, and they're just like, we'll just make him look like a naked guy with no penis.
And it's really insane. Well, also because the song, she just said that he's a ginger cat, but then they make it Idris Elba's skin tone, and it's like, oh, I feel uncomfortable about all of this.
Yeah.
No one is as naked as Idris Elba is in this movie.
How
No one
someone
has
can be
ever been
covered in
so
fur
nude.
and yet incredibly naked at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, he looks like he could do that move that guy does in the Watchmen TV show where he lubes himself up and slides into a gutter.
So, Dan, what was the thing you wanted to say?
No, I just wanted to say that we're going to do things a little differently because normally one of the three of us provides the synopsis such as it is, but we have to give the power of position to our guest, Natalie, who, along with being a musical theater actress herself, was at the premiere of Cats.
I was at the premiere of Cats, and I have also seen the movie 4 times in theaters now. I've seen it under every sort of influence that I can be under. And so I really feel like it's my time to shine.
and the reason, we should explain that the reason that you guys are on the podcast for this episode is that you demanded to be on the podcast for this
as
episode.
soon as the trailer came out, we said that's what has to happen.
When the trailer came out, I think both of you were like, we need to be on this show.
I think we conspired together. I texted Natalie when the trailer came out, and I was like, so we're doing the Flophouse about this. And then I texted you and said, hey, make note, when Cats comes out, Natalie and I are jointly guesting on Flophouse.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now
And then
it's
it was
happened.
beyond all of our wildest dreams.
This is a backdoor pilot for Natalie and my podcast where we only talk about cats every week.
Yeah. We just go in depth on a different cat every single
I
week.
would love
we
that.
go through
Call
the
the
entire
Jellicle
history
gals.
of the cat.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us, Natalie, what is the tale of, pun intended, of cats?
How long is a cat
first-
tail? That is another thing the movie could not agree on.
I mean, there's so much about the size and shape of cats. That
I
the
wanted to
movie
ask
can't standardize.
though, before we start, should we quiz Natalie about the premiere before or after we talk about the movie?
I think maybe for those, maybe we should do the plot first,
Yes,
and then we
all
should
right.
talk about
Great.
the premiere afterwards. Because I'm guessing you're gonna. We've already spent so much time referring to things that will be utter nonsense to anyone
Yeah,
who hasn't seen the movie, and is
And to
merely
anyone who
pure
has.
nonsense to people who have seen it.
Okay, so we open on the sky, the only thing large enough to contain Cats 2019. But what's not revealing itself to us amidst the stars? Sweetie is the face of a cat. The jellicle moon is out, baby. We pan down through London of an indeterminate time period, according to the libretto, 1939, or the present, or a time in space. 1939 is when T.S. Eliot wrote the Cats series of poems.
Okay.
Because they keep
Suddenly-
referring to Queen Victoria, and I was like, they have a car, so it can't be like really Queen Victoria time. But
Exactly. It's all a mishmash, and now
So saying it's 1939, and what the film is saying is the greatest war in human history is about to break open. All laws have been suspended. Cats now have human faces and hands and can dance the night away.
Well, and everyone has left town to prepare for that war, leaving
Yeah,
only
yeah.
the cats.
And I mean,
exactly.
I think we've all learned that all those laws are meaningless because Macavity's already broken them all. Go on.
Every human law.
The first thing my boyfriend said when we woke up this morning, like before anything else, he just goes, "Every human law, Jenny." And it's not just British laws. Macavity has broken the law of every country.
every human.
In every human law. Macavity has chewed gum in Singapore. Macavity has jaywalked.
He went to
Macavity
Thailand and drew a mustache on a poster of the
Yep.
king of Thailand. Very serious over there.
He set so many things on fire.
You know what? I bet Macavity, he was only doing it for research because he wrote one of those books they used to sell at Scholastic Book Fairs that are like 101 crazy laws. And they're like, did you know you can't quack like a duck in Bedford, New York? That kind of stuff. I bet Macavity was just testing for that.
Yeah.
Just went through all of them.
Okay, so we've established that it's in London and the Jellicle moon is out.
The jellicle moon is out. Then a car pulls over. Someone pops out. Click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. Go her heels. And you think those are going to be the signifiers of a human presence throughout the movie, except for that most of the cats will randomly start wearing shoes midway through. Woman swings a burlap sack around, and then she hurls it into the alleyway. And a bunch of cats start circling the little burlap sack. What is in the sack? What is in the sack? And then all of a sudden, a little white cat jumps out. Ooh, who is this? Her name is Victoria. She's a little white cat.
Natalie, I think you're doing a disservice. When you just say cats, I don't think you are accurately representing what slams against your eyeballs.
We have to take a moment or perhaps 15 minutes to talk about the way these cats look and how it is a fundamental flaw in the conception of this movie.
Or
I would
the
say it
thing
is-
that makes it perfect.
Yeah, it is both the serious flaw that ruins the film and also, as you said, Natalie, the thing that rockets it to the next level of euphoria, that rather than people in the show Cats, I've never seen the show, but I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
They just look, and I saw the commercials that played endlessly in the New York area. Cats now and forever at the Winter Garden. I saw those growing up, and it was like, okay, the people look silly. They look like WWF wrestlers that are supposed to be cat themed, but. Instead, here I guess you would call it what, a Lovecraftian monstrosity, which is like
Yes.
something that is neither cat nor human, but has the worst and also sexiest qualities of both.
It's also just like nothing can prepare you for it because I saw the pictures. I'd seen like clips going in, but the first time you see it and you're really like forced to sit and interact with it in a storytelling context, it's the most horrific thing. And you just are like, everywhere you look, there's something else freakish. Like why is there so much shoulder action?
Yeah.
Why are their hands like that?
How come
Why-
they're always posed so that their butts are sticking up in the air? Like I think part of the problem is they went super.
Seen a cat before.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
going to
that's
say.
true.
That is very accurate to actual cats. But the problem is, with an actual cat, you just push that butt out of your face saying, get out of here with that. Whereas when you see sexy dancer butts being stuck in the air, you're like, this brings a different context to the whole thing that I'm not comfortable with.
They had to go through some kind of cat camp for training, and I think they went a little
school.
overboard with it because there are a lot of there are tons of times in the movie where I'm like, they have nailed that aspect of cat movement. But yeah, it is creepy to see a human being doing that.
It is so much like just twitching.
There's also it made me realize that there's such a thin line between cat movements and kind of like Vogue, kind of Paris is Burning style like pose dancing.
Yep.
So I was like, this is basically Paris is Burning but with cats instead of people. Like they're all presenting themselves.
When they have like twins doing their actual dancing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yes. More of this in the Jellicle Ball. Get Billy Porter in here to judge all of the cats.
Funny you should say that. I mean, what if Billy Porter had been pulled in to play Macavity? What a show this would have been.
And he just would have roasted all of them as he was taking them, as he was poofing them into dust.
Yeah.
He would have had like just reeds on them instead of just going macavity or meow.
Yes. Macavity has, whenever he turns the cat into dust, he has a different catchphrase, and each one is sillier than the last.
When he just says meow, I really think my brain broke.
Well, my favorite is when he goes,
way.
magic. He's just like saying the thing he's doing as he does it.
Yeah, he's saying bat and turning into a bat.
I think a major flaw of the movie is that it's called Cats, and the people look like cats, and they're constantly singing about how they're cats, but the movie is like, we got to keep convincing you that they're cats. So at times they'll just go, meow, meow. Or put their hands behind their ear, and it's like, I get it, they're cats. Like, take a break from being cats for a moment.
When they make Jennifer Hudson crawl on the ground.
Yeah.
Let her stand up. Let her walk away.
Ian McKellen was.
Why?
Ian McKellen's cat performance is like, he took it up a couple extra notches.
It
where
feels
No, we'll
lived
get
in.
to that.
Yeah, we
can't.
will.
Okay,
Him
wait.
gonna
licking up the milk.
Yep.
Sir Ian McKellen
Yep.
lapping
Meow,
up
meow,
milk is the most upsetting thing I've ever seen
I
committed
do
to
want to.
film.
Oh, sorry, Sue.
I just want to say so this movie opens, we have human cat hybrids walking around, and I love that like the movie does not fuck around. It immediately throws you in. They start singing this Jellicle song that we're going to talk about, and like
About how they're jellicles, yeah.
it's experiencing that with a first-time audience was so much fun to feel the energy of people realizing what they were actually going to be
Oh, this
doing.
is the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so much madder than you think from the start, and like I had this jaw open look that I can only liken to the reaction shots at the end of The Producers when they're watching Springtime for Hitler. And like I look over at Stuart and he has the exact same face on. And I like my journey with cats was like I had about 15 minutes of that stunned face, then about like 60 or 70 minutes of hysterical laughter, and then like the rest like half hour of the movie I was in something close to awe.
Yeah, you're just in tears because you're like, I've seen the face of God, and it's a cat's face.
Yeah.
So I apologize, Natalie. So you've taken us about 3 minutes into the movie.
Correct.
So they're all singing about how they're jellicles,
this is
right?
But this is really because this is the imposed narrative of the movie, because Cats notably like doesn't really have a plot. Like it literally is just cats coming forward. It's like the second act of the Nutcracker where everyone just comes forward and is like, here is me, here's my thing, goodbye. And then the real
Here's
coup.
how we dance in Russia. See you later. Here's
Yeah.
how we dance in Arabia. See you later. That kind of stuff.
Exactly. Like the real coup of Tom Hooper's is that he's like, well, we're going to have a whole journey where we have our audience surrogate cat who is coming in, because Victoria is just like one of the cats in the actual show. And you just like go into the show and the cats are prowling around the audience, and it just starts with them singing Jellicle songs at you. They're not doing it to, and like the whole show of Cats is
Certainly
that all
feels
of
like
them
it.
are on the same page, and you are an outsider who sucks and doesn't know what's going on.
So it's like, spoiler alert, the end of this movie when Judi Dench sings a song directly at the audience, and I was like, could she hear me laughing at her this whole time?
Yes.
But I
Yes.
also feel like these like efforts to make it an understandable narrative end up being even more alienating.
Oh no, it makes it even worse.
Because your brain, when it's just the songs, like your brain gets into this rhythm of like, oh, okay, I'm watching a review, and then like someone tries to advance the plot, and you're like, whoa, what?
What is this?
Well,
yeah.
The fact that you said that I think the moment that typifies what they should have been doing with the movie for me is when Rum Tum Tugger is singing, and then he just finishes, and Victoria's just like, whew, and then Bustopher Jones just strolls out of nowhere and is like, and it's time for my song, I'm Bustopher Jones.
Oh, hello.
Instead,
What?
there's so many moments where you're like, and now the movie will begin. Nope, Skimbleshanks is going to tell us what it's like to live on the train.
That's the best transition in the movie, because not only does Bustopher Jones just sort of take her arm and walk her away as if he's like, now you listen to me.
Yeah, he's like,
in a Rum Tum Tugger song, he just turns and runs down the street away from the camera.
Well, no, because I think Grizabella is in between. I think he hisses at Grizabella at the end of his, and then we get the moment of Jennifer Hudson being in a whole different movie from everyone else.
Which, like, it felt like a good 10% of the audience in our theater. Most everybody else was there to see it, ironically, but there was a 10% of the people that were like, Jennifer Hudson's in a movie singing songs. I'm going to go see that.
Yes.
So anytime the very disrespectful audience were like trying to riff over Jennifer Hudson's performance, they were getting shushed, and rightly so.
Yes, I believe so. I really think that Jennifer Hudson is good in the movie that she is in, and I think it's right that she's in a different movie because Grizabella is the outsider character. Ultimately, more so than Victoria.
I don't know that there's any performer in this movie who does themselves an injustice. They're all handed like bad material to work with, basically. But like everyone's trying their hardest. No one's crapping out.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to sell it. Judi Dench finally gets her chance to be in Cats after missing her chance to be in the original London production of it. Like I was like, everyone is really working hard. There's nobody who's like, wink, I know it's stupid. It's Cats.
I have a theory
question.
about what you're saying.
Not having seen the stage musical, is the scene where Bustopher Jones gets hit in the nuts by a garbage can, is that in the original
not.
Stage musical?
That is not in it.
Okay. Dan, what were you going to say?
Well, I have two things that are brought up by things you've said. One about how everyone like kind of acquits themselves as best they can. Like I kept thinking during it, not to borrow the title of another popular podcast, How Did This Get Made?
Right.
And but it was the sense of like, okay, there is such seriousness of purpose from these actors, and I think that it's because, of course, they are acting in a stage production of Cats, not knowing that later on CGI fur will be obscuring everything that all the fine work that they're doing. So they're taking it very seriously.
How could they have known?
Yeah.
How could they have known that's what it would look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when Harrison Ford was filming the upcoming film Call of the Wild, which we saw the trailer for before Cats, and I feel like there must have been a moment where Harrison Ford went up to the director and was like, the dog's going to look normal, right? And the director's like, yeah.
I saw that trailer and I'm like, they know that dogs exist in the world, right? They don't have to have this crazy-looking fake dog.
The trailers before our screening of Cats
it was originally called Scooby of the Wild.
The trailers before our screening of Cats, it started with the Aretha Franklin movie, Respect. Then it went to In the Heights, and we're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And then it goes to Call the Wild, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then it goes to Sonic the Hedgehog, and at that point, the audience is going crazy.
And then there's also like some Christian movie about a rock musician, and also...
It was lost in the blue whirlwind of the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer.
But Doolittle, they had Doolittle too. It was all the hits.
Look, anything with animals or songs, that's what the Cats people are there for. Now, Dan, to answer your question, how did this get made? I think there is a very rational case to be made for making this movie of Cats.
Yes.
Cats was a huge hit. For a long time, it was the longest-running show in both London and New York. The cast is amazing. Even the people who are not famous are fantastic performers. I don't know why that they then... So on paper, it's like, this should be a hit. And then for some reason they were like, but first we're going to slap some weird CGI crazy cat bodies on everybody.
I have a theory about this too. Oh, sorry, you go, Jenny, and then I'll...
Oh, no, so I sort of disagree that it should be a hit because, like, by its nature, Cats is basically a review. It's like, it kind of works as a stage show, but even then, like, only sort of.
But you could do, if they did it as a review movie, I think it might have worked as
Here's
like
how
a novelty.
I think would have been awesome. I legit, and I'm glad they didn't. I'm so glad they came out with this awful monstrosity instead.
Yes.
But like, I think if they had done a really cool Fantasia like animated movie where they were like trying really cool, interesting like animated techniques, and they got like cool like.
Well, sure, yeah, that's the good version of
That would
Cats.
have been awesome. Like, there are ways to have done this in a way that would have been a really good movie. It's just weird that Tom Hooper was like, I have an idea of like a weird narrative to lay over this, but I don't have any other vision.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what
I mean,
that plays into my theory, which was just like the problem with this is like each successive medium this material is given to us is less appropriate for what it is. Like
until
the
VR performance
it starts out about
soon.
Well, it starts out these poems of like these whimsical like character studies of cats, and it's like, okay, whimsical poems about cats, that makes sense. And then they're like, oh, let's make a musical out of it. I'm like, that makes less sense, but I guess you could do it like a review, and like, you know, the theatricality of being cats would work on the stage. And then they're like, let's make a big blockbuster movie about it, which is the worst thing to do with the material, because like blockbuster filmmaking now is so literal. So of course they're going to be like, how do we make them look like real cats?
Yeah.
How do we like put a story in here?
And next it'll be the Netflix series where it's a 10-episode season and they've got to like stretch that story out and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
guys,
this was.
go on.
I was just gonna say this is more or less high budget hentai. That is what they succeeded at making.
So
guys, what's a
movie.
jellicle cat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
they spend
So
a
they
whole
spend
song asking questions of what the jellicle cat is, because Victoria has appeared. Victoria has been abandoned by her quote unquote family, or we don't know. And then all of these horrible to look at CGI cats start just talking to her and screaming things about jellicle cats, asking her if she's a jellicle cat, and they're getting increasingly frantic and shrill over the course of the song. And she doesn't know if she is a jellicle cat yet, because in the musical they're all jellicle cats, and we're like, all cats are jellicle cats, and that's the whole thing. But in this, it's like they're like the Jets and the Sharks. They're like the jellicle cats are like a gang of cats, and she doesn't know if she's part of it.
Here's the way I understood it was jellicle cats are like the mutants of cats. They've all got special powers, and there's good jellicles and bad jellicles, and they even like the way that the X-Men and their villains fight each other, but then they'll occasionally team up because, you know, they're all mutants. So like that's what a jellicle is. It's just like a cat that was born with a special extra power. For instance, some of them cause mischief but never get caught, and another one causes mischief and never gets caught. And yet another one does mischief but never gets caught. And another one works on a train.
my thing about like all these, everyone always says like, oh, they don't tell you what jellicle means. And I think it's something more.
They spend most of the movie telling you that.
Oh, God damn it.
Well,
Let me get my
like an
thing
old
out.
Peter
Like,
thing, is
one of
people
the
say
like
that.
big jokes, the standard jokes about cats is like, oh, they say jellicle all the time, but they don't say what it means. And like, it's more insidious than that. Like, they never stop telling you what it means, but everything they say it means is just a thing that a normal cat does.
Correct.
So you're like, wait, what makes it special? I still don't know.
Because the actual definition of jellicle cat in T.S. Eliot's version of it was just how his niece tried to say dear little cat. It was just her like little speech impediment mispronunciation of dear little cat, which is a thing she heard like adults say, and she tried to say it, and so it was jellicle. And then that comes back, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, after the movie thinks that the storyline we all care about is, will Victoria become a jellicle cat or not? And so finally at the very end of the movie, after Jennifer Hudson has flown off in her little chandelier,
with the rest of the aeronauts.
Her hot air
Judi
balloon
Dench
chandelier, yes,
says,
to heaven.
Judi Dench turns to Victoria and she says, you truly are a jellicle cat. And everyone in the theater usually is laughing too hard to know that right after that, Judi Dench says, a dear little cat. And then Jennifer Hudson finishes flying because she's flying forever.
Our theater.
Wow, we're all at the
she burns
ending.
up as she's exiting
Well,
the
because you
atmosphere,
said,
I
what is
think.
the jellicle cat? And everyone's saying the things of jellicle cat.
Yeah,
and
in our theater when
provide.
she announced Victoria was a jellicle cat, like people were freaking out. Like some people started a wave. It was amazing.
High-fiving each other.
Somebody got up and yelled, "She is not a jellicle cat. I refuse to accept
One
it."
guy stormed out. He's like, I got to call my mom.
Yeah.
My fan fiction says she wasn't jellicle.
Yes. But basically, that's the plot that is introduced at the beginning of the movie in the song Jellicle Cats is like now the storyline of this thing before the cat pageant of it all is, will Victoria be able to join the Jellicle Cats? And at the end of Jellicle Cats, like everyone sort of scatters and Victoria does the thing where she's still singing the song, but everyone else is gone.
Yeah.
Like you just learned it.
And that's when she turns and sees that Angelical Houston herself is standing there.
But then Macavity appears, and Macavity's like, "Oh, the ball could get dangerous," and then he disappears himself in a puff of smoke for the first time. The first time he says "magic" as he leaves.
Just to tell you what you saw.
So after that first crazy song, you're like, oh, this is probably going to calm down and make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then
Also,
the immediate next song.
Because the first song has
I think I know enough about cats now, and then all the cats come back and they're like, "Cats have 3 names. Let me tell you about that."
Yes, and the second song is the scariest part of the whole movie for me. Like it really is the boat ride from Willy Wonka writ large in my estimation, because it's just like weird talking, and then it ends with the word ineffable, which becomes a huge part of this movie as well. The word ineffable.
What was that about?
As a concept. There's sexy dancing during that part as well. And then Munkustrap, the narrator cat, comes forward and is like, the Jellicle ball. Yeah. Yes.
But is this where he's like, I'm going to introduce you to some Jellicle cats?
Yes, well, because he says, are you going to come? He says, are you going to come to the Jellicle ball? And she's like, what's the Jellicle ball? And then he says, the Jellicle ball is where old Deuteronomy decides who will be granted a new life. And she's like, how does she decide? And then Munkustrap says, each cat will sing a song of themselves, who they are and what they do. And at this point, my boyfriend leans over to me and goes, okay, dramaturgy slay, because that's never explicated like that in the show either. Like everyone just sort of starts saying, here is who I am and what I do. But to have Tom Hooper add dialogue into the movie to think that will make everything clearer, when all it does is just sort of muddy the waters even more of like, oh, now that they're talking, like, is this supposed to be like naturalistic dialogue? What's going on? But
Wait, I have a
who
question.
they are and what they do.
Point of order.
Yes, the chair recognizes Jenny.
Thank you. They all start introducing themselves via song before they're at any kind of recognizable ball, and they frequently do it without old Deuteronomy present.
Yes, it's like dress rehearsal. Why are they blowing it right now?
Right? They're just doing it at Victoria, who's like a nobody. Why are they like completely wasting their song?
Yeah,
You're
you
right,
need
that's
to be
the
marking.
main plot hole.
That's my biggest problem.
Yeah,
sure.
Everyone needs to be marking their songs because they're going to blow out their voices before old Deuteronomy gets there and is actually able to make the Jellicle choice.
And I want to say something about the structure. And Elliot,
oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead. Dan.
Elliot, you sort of fainted at it earlier, but I just want to say, so as we've said, basically every song is either "Let me tell you about myself" or "Here, let me tell you about this guy," and like you can
occasionally, "Let me tell you about cats."
Yeah, and you can like logically know that that's the deal behind the movie Cats. Yep. Before going in and being like, okay, well, my brain can handle that. But then once you go see it in a big budget movie, it feels so strange because it's like the first act of a movie never ends. Like they just keep like introducing a new character. Like, oh yeah, you know what, that guy, don't worry about him. How about her? Like, and they just keep introducing new characters. And then there's no second act. And then there's like 15 minutes of third act at the very end.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like Suicide Squad, where like every 15 minutes they reintroduce all the characters with a musical sting. Although this is the better version of that.
Well, Judi Dench constantly was sending dead animals.
Similar to Suicide Squad on the same level. It's like a movie version of Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, where every other chapter is a new first chapter to the story. and you're trying to find the second chapter. That's what Cats is like. And you're right, Dan, because it's like, okay, we're at the Jellicle Ball. We've met all the cats. Now she's going to make her decision. Oh, here's Skimbleshanks. We've never seen him before. Time for him to introduce himself. Oh, wait, here's Bomblery. He's going to tell us about macavity we already know about, but I don't know why he's not singing about himself.
And it's weird because most of these characters, as well, you don't see again, really.
Yeah.
So they just
you
come
don't
in.
see them before or after.
And
Elliot turned to me like a few times and was like, "We are 10 minutes in or 2 hours in." I have no idea.
There's truly no way of knowing.
I want to admit this. Like, you in no way need this to enjoy this movie. And if you have problems with substances, you probably shouldn't. But I had an edible before seeing this movie. You don't need it. But I will say that the moment that I started
Was that
giggling,
for our 420 screening we went to?
yeah, that's the.
I think the programmer was having a laugh.
The moment I first started giggling uncontrollably, and just genuinely couldn't stop, was thinking about these introductions and imagining if that's how life went for me. Like if I met a new person, they were like, "Hey, I'm Mumbledy Peg, the scullery
your
human."
whole
Like
deal?
my deal is
no,
this. I'll tell you for 9 minutes.
You'd be starting a new job, and it'd be like, well, tell us about yourself, Dan. I'm Dan McCoy, a glum kind of fellow. Sometimes I'm angry, and sometimes I'm mellow. And I'd be like, yes, perfect, exactly what we wanted.
Not to stop you. You don't have to tell me you're extra. I already know it.
The thing about all these cats is that they can tell us whatever they want. As far as we've been shown and not told, they are exclusively self-introduction cats.
Yeah, that's all they do.
Also, I'll say, if you don't do edibles often, I took an edible the second time I saw it, and when it all hits you at once, for me personally, I just became very aware of my mortality. And I
The
just,
fact that you're seeing this the second
yes,
time?
and I just sort of was like, oh my God, I'm going to die from being too high at cats. And that's what my family is going to have to say at my funeral.
Is that what-
They're going to say she was too high at cats and she died from it.
You're like, I think I'm going to not survive the next time that Rebel Wilson as Jenny Anydots scratches her crotch on camera.
Yeah, or I don't think I'm going to survive when Chekhov's skin suit.
Oh, God.
So let's go to her. So they're
She is
talking.
the
They're
first.
like, let's
She
meet
is-
some other cats.
Yes. And I think her introduction is basically like, do you want to see one of the cats that's getting ready for the ball? And then we go to Rebel Wilson, who is a Gumby cat, which they never really say what that means, other than that she hangs out during the day and everyone thinks she's lazy. And then when everyone goes to sleep, she recruits all of the mice and the beetles to be like a little servant fleet for her.
And she teaches them how to sing and dance, and she manages to make a dance troupe out of some child mice, and this is the
that
most
are
disturbing
too
visual in
small.
the whole
mice
movie.
are too small compared to how big the cats are in this part.
Yeah.
So bizarre.
And I was like, so she goes to like a stove or something.
So
and
wait a
opens it,
minute.
and there's
They
these
all
child
have
mice,
they all have
and I was
human
like,
faces. What do humans look like?
And I was
What
like,
if they went to a statue and the human had like a monster face?
Oh yeah, it's Eye of the Beholder. It's the Twilight Zone Eye of the Beholder.
And they kept thinking of the lady in Eraserhead who lives in the radiator and sings the Heaven song, and I was like, I will show that to my son before I show him these weird baby mice that live in a stove.
Well, there's sequences in this where they've just superimposed a strip of these people in CGI cockroach costumes marching across the screen, and then you have these giant big cat heads in back, like that's the back layer of it, and it's as wacky and as sort of collage-y an image as you would see in Houseu or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just mind-blowingly strange to look at.
So the movie continues to be on hard mode.
Can we talk about just a second the shot when she the beetles come out and then it randomly goes upside down in this way that feels very 8th grader doing his first film project.
Yeah, no, it's like an 80s video
And
transition.
there's a scene where she is singing into something. And I can't
don't
tell
know what
if
it
is
is.
it a tail? Is it a length of intestine? It's pink. I don't know what's going on.
Because she sings into her tail later, and it looks different from what that is. It looks like an umbilical cord.
The rest of the movie, I was like,
really
looking
perplexed.
for this pink cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a real Tetsuo the Iron Man feel to this whole sequence, culminating when she unzips her skin and underneath is wearing like a music note sequined vest and hot pants, and it's like, whose skin were you wearing?
Yeah.
Was it your sister Jenny when we walked out who was like, oh, she's like Buffalo Bill and she kills other cats?
You know what? I
guess
guess that's the second way to skin a cat. I've always been told there's more than one, but it really seemed like there was just one way. But I guess
now, of course, we move on from that musical number to the plot, which is that Rum Tum Tugger is also in the movie.
Jason Derulo appears and he says, that was boring. It's pretty old-fashioned. He has a British accent because all of them have to have British accents.
Yeah. You know what? I loved what he was doing.
Honestly, I did too. I loved that arrangement of Rum Tum Tugger as like a sort of a Prince vibe.
I did too.
Like James Brownie, like a little bit of that. I like. It was weird though.
Milk, nothing better.
Yeah, and then he starts pouring cream all over everybody.
All over the women.
Yeah,
he takes them all to a milk bar, and all of a sudden, all of these cats are just writhing under milk hoses.
They are guzzling milk like Luke Skywalker at his Hermitage. It's just like it's just getting all in their fur. It must be so gross.
Oh man, it's so great, and it's so bad for cats, but whatever, they love it. And the thing is, there was. Is this where we should talk about how they minimized all the actors' crotch areas? Or?
Yeah, I think Jason Derulo.
He was the one who famously like argued that they like shrank his bulge, which thank God.
Yeah, because it's too big. Based on that
no,
Instagram
I'm just saying
photo of him?
like try to make them less sexual is all I'm saying, because there's enough stuff moving in my face.
No, clearly Tom Hooper is a butt guy because all sorts of crotchal or chestal genitalia or secondary sex characteristics has been shrunk to almost non-existence so that we can focus more on the double moons of their butts just bobbing up and down in front of the camera constantly.
Yeah. Tons of butt stuff, and then in the middle of Rum Tum Tugger when Victoria like does her leg extension at him, and there's just a close-up of him staring at her foot, and then it goes back to the camera cuts away from that and then goes back to her foot in his face as he's singing Victoria.
When he's about to suck her toes, that was nuts.
Yes. It was very Tarantino.
Now, we said that we liked the arrangement here, but I do have to say something about the music, and that is that you know, I know Elliot is a proponent of Jesus Christ Superstar. I am not a big Andrew Lloyd Webber fan in general.
No, I think Jesus Christ Superstar is the only Andrew Lloyd Webber I can legitimately say I love.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I think that there are some good songs in this show. I mean, at least like the melodies are catchy, but for me,
some of them are just like, this is just some words.
Yeah, no, I agree. But like the instrumentation, like this is like such an expensive movie, but the way they do it, it sounds like a carousel is farting on a synthesizer. Like it's like,
well, that's
like that's.
I really admire that they kept the electronic synth sound in so much because, like that set, not having seen Cats on stage again, only knowing it from the TV commercials, that says Cats to me. It's like that 80s synth sound, and like I'm like, you know what? I'm sure there would be a lot of mad musical theater people if you took the synths out of Cats.
And I will say, I'm gonna drop a name. That is exactly what Mr. Lin-Manuel Miranda said when it started. He was like, I'm so glad that they're doing all of the synths. I'm so glad. Because it doesn't sound... I feel like, weirdly, this score is like such a product of 1982 that to try and like beef it up, I feel like that would sound weirder almost is if they rearranged the orchestrations to be... not synth heavy at all. If they tried to make them fancier.
I'm going to say two words. Auto-tuned Cats. We don't need that. I'm glad that they didn't do any of that stuff. They didn't modernize it too much.
I have a question, or just I have another point, because we brushed by this, and I'm sorry to derail the conversation, but it's bothering me. The milk bar. They're in London.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also in an all-cats world.
Yeah, all the signs are
Everything
cat
is cat
puns.
themed.
There's a Catsino across the street.
And there's wanted posters for
A cat, yeah.
For
Macavity.
Macavity.
Right,
also
but they were
committed
Moriarty
human
during the
crimes.
day.
Yeah.
During the
that's
day,
right.
they
At
were
night it
Moriarty.
becomes a cat
I think
world.
because it's Moriarty, and then it goes dark in the middle of Jellicle songs, and then it kicks back, and it's Macavity. So I think in the world of cats, we're supposed to believe that after dark, it becomes Cat World.
Wait, but during the day, Sherlock Holmes is real?
Well, that's another.
Yeah.
That's another nod to the T.S. Eliot stuff. I was doing my research a little bit too because I was like, I didn't realize how in depth the Wikipedia articles on almost every cat except Bustopher Jones, who does not get his own Wikipedia article, which is crazy. But that,
He's just a cat who likes to eat garbage.
That Macavity
true.
was very much T.S. Eliot's play on Moriarty. Like that's his joke. Like he was inspired by Moriarty for that character, and so like to have a Moriarty poster become a Macavity poster, it's another little wink to the people who know the cat story.
Because Moriarty is always like doing crimes, then going crime.
Yeah, and it's all based on the old Sherlock story, the case of the disappearing dust dude.
Can I
And
say
also Moriarty's
sorry.
body is covered in fur and he has no penis. Yeah,
Can I say one more thing about the
it's your
music?
podcast, man. Go ahead.
Is that I do think that the way everything is mixed together, I don't know what it is. I think it's partly the singing, partly T.S. Eliot's poetic language, which a lot of which is kept. I can't understand a lot of what the cats are singing.
No, never.
So like their whole deal is like, let me tell you about you. But like I just have to guess from what like the visions of like what I'm seeing visually on the screen.
Yeah, it's very hard to make out the lyrics a lot of the time. So you're just seeing like Rum Tum Tugger just kind of like dancing and Girl Cat's going and I'm like, I guess he's a Don Juan cat. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. They all have like one thing, so you get what it is, but it's still.
I really
It's
can't
like
wait for the
Shakespeare, Dan.
I really
Yeah.
can't wait for this to hit streaming so you can just slap on those closed captions.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to correct something I said earlier. I said that the best part is the transition between Rum Tum Tugger and Bustopher Jones. Looking back on my notes, I somehow forgot that Grizabella shows up between those two characters.
She does indeed.
And sings the little, like, condensed early version of Memories just to give us a taste of it, right?
Yes. Well, I think this is actually not the pre-pres of Memory. I think when she first
that's
appears,
later.
this is the weird recitative moment
Now-
where she's like, she walks and she's doing a thing and her eye twists. And
yeah.
Oh, right,
Natalie, I'm
right.
very curious. Is pre-pre's an actual word? Because that's what I wrote in my notes, but I didn't know
I
whether.
think that's how I've always heard it
All right,
referred to.
interesting.
So I think you just know things, Dan.
Oh wow.
Great.
And so why do the other cats not like Grizabella? Just because she has the stink of failure about her?
No,
or
it's
is there...
the double snot rivulets.
She was,
Yeah, she does constantly have two
she
rivers
was a
of
sex
snot down
worker
her
with
nose.
Macavity. Under Macavity,
wow.
I feel like that's the vibe that they were
Yeah.
trying to give is that she like went
yeah.
off with Macavity. She like was the glamour cat, which I don't know what her job was even when she was the glamour cat, because they
Here's my
seem to
guess.
be like
Here's my
she
guess.
was the
She's-
glamour cat, then she
She's
fell
a
on hard
sad
times,
cat.
and yeah.
As Glamour Cat, she was the cat in the Fancy Feast commercial who ate out of the crystal goblet, and that's what her song would have been about. I'm the Glamour Cat, eating out of crystal. Everybody
Top
hiss
that.
Till.
You know,
This falls into my other favorite Andrew Lloyd Webber thing, which is the part in Rainbow High where people just list whatever they're going to do for Ava Perón.
Oh,
and
yes.
one of them just goes glamour.
Yes, and also someone in Rainbow High just goes magic. And I'm
Magic!
like, when
Yeah.
does Ava Perón learn magic? What? She's doing sleight of hand. I don't know what's going on.
So I really wanted the moment where Victoria clearly telegraphed she's going to be the one who allows Grizabella to redeem herself because she is nice. But I wanted everyone to be like, no, don't you get it? Grizabella was Hitler's cat. That's why we don't like her.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't know everything about Grizabella.
Is
You just
this-
got here.
is this when Victoria sings the new song?
No.
Okay.
No,
This
that's
is
much
just the
later. Now
but
it's when
this is when they force Jennifer Hudson to crawl away, even though
Yeah.
no one has been crawling.
You know, a lot of people talk about how she's like snotty while she's singing. She's
I
like,
love
there's
it.
a lot of, and like that, you know, I mean, she does an amazing job singing. I'm not like she's great in it, but like. I do think that Tom Holland has made Hooper. Sorry, I keep doing.
Although
could've
you
been
can
Tom
drag
Holland. Maybe
him into this.
yeah, why not?
maybe Tom Holland stopped by for the day and Tom Hooper played Spider-Man for a day. I don't know.
No,
Job swap.
I do think this is a directorial choice from Tom Hooper, who's probably like, okay, the one thing that everyone thought was great in my Les Mis was that Anne Hathaway was crying so much singing "I Dreamed a Dream." So we got to really cry up this memory. Like we got to.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Put a
and
bunch
people
of
love
snot on
it. The Viola Davis moment, because Lynn turned to me and was like, her snot. And I was like, yeah, they're giving her a Viola Davis moment. It's just that this movie is bad. And so every like little minute detail we are like dissecting. But I weirdly think that if this movie were being generally perceived as good, we would love her snot and be like, oh, she's so raw and in it and like doing the thing.
Here's why I disagree. I think you're right if it was real snot. I kind of suspect it's CGI snot.
Ooh.
It is such perfect dual twin rivulets down her face in a way that I've never seen in a human being. And I'm like, I think they put some computer snot on her face to make it like look more raw.
Oh,
you know?
That would bum me out so hard.
Well, all of our
But
VFX listeners, please chime in and let us know.
Again, I'm talking completely. I have no idea. I'm not a VFX cat, so I don't know particularly. But
while we're back to the CGI mistake, there was something that I forgot I wanted to say before, which is that there's a lot of dancing in this movie. A lot of like people doing real dancing who, like, I presume at the time were on set doing amazing things with their bodies. But then they paint a bunch of CGI fur over it, and it all looks like it's just badly rendered animation. It immediately ruins the work of those dancers. You're just like, oh, that looks so fake and weird.
I don't know necessarily, because there were two sequences in the movie when we went to see it. Jenny and I just saw it last night. There were two sequences when the audience stopped laughing, and it was just the silence of an entertained audience, and those were both big dance numbers. And I'm like, there were a couple of moments where I was like, this is really good dancing, and if they had just let the dancing live on its own.
The cockroach dance,
right? Was it Skimbleshanks tapping? Was that one of them? Because
one was Skimbleshanks tapping, and the other one was there's a long wordless dance when the jellicle ball is starting, and it starts out funny, and then you're like, oh no, like these are really good dancers that are all like taking their turn dancing. And it's like, oh, this is good. Like, dance is powerful. And
but
like,
those are both.
I was like, oh, this movie shouldn't have words in it. It should just be dancing.
Yeah.
But also, those are both specifically more grounded dance sequences than a lot of the ones.
Yes, they're not leaping around through the air. Yeah.
Because also the jellicle ball, when it starts, it's like shot and the CGI is in a way where it looks like they're floating, and so it feels really CGI'd. But then it gets to a point in it where then like Lay Twins are in like sneakers for their featured moment of it, and then it feels really real because obviously like they have shoes on, they're on the floor, so all of this is like them doing these things, and then after that it gets a little more grounded. But I feel like it's whenever it's the cats at the whims of Tom Hooper's CGI, it looks so fake that you're like, this isn't dance anymore.
Yeah. It starts to be like the old man character from the Six Flags commercials, where you're just like, this isn't how this guy would really dance.
And there will be moments where like they have people doing stuff that they couldn't do in life, and they've just like mapped a face onto something, and like that face like sort of shimmies around where it should be, but is never quite at the right place.
Yeah, it kind of swims around the head.
Yeah.
It's like the swords
like when
in Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman.
Yeah, or when Christopher Lee battled Yoda those times.
So anyway,
Macavity appears after Grizabella is banished by the group. Macavity appears and magics away Rebel Wilson. Poofs her into dust. We don't know where she went yet. And then James Corden is around and doing his big song about how he loves to be fat and eat trash out of the garbage.
And they missed a real opportunity here to do the thing that Heathcliff would do, where he would take a whole fish and put it in his mouth and then pull out just the bones. I'm like, why did you do that, Tom? Come on.
That I also want to say that when Rebel Jones and James Corden have a lot of moments.
Rebel Jones.
Did you combine her with Felicity Jones?
Rebel Wilson and James Corden have a lot of moments in this where they are clearly like just ad-libbing a joke, and they'll do this joke, and the camera will just hang on them for a while, like they're expecting uproarious laughter from the audience.
In an audience full of people, exactly. It's just going to be wave after wave of laughter, and you don't want them to miss any of those great lyrics.
They don't want the laughter to step on the very well enunciated lyrics that are about to show up.
And then Macavity takes Bustopher Jones too.
Yes, Macavity takes Bustopher in a way where he appears with more trash food in a garbage can. And like, even though Bustopher has just eaten so much trash food in a garbage can, this trash food in a garbage can looks so much more sumptuous. And so he disappears into it. And I think this one, Macavity just says meow.
Yeah, I think so.
He really
Yes, Jenny?
says it in that Flophouse house cat cadence too.
Uh-huh.
I was
Yep.
really excited about that.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
got a check in the mail from Tom Hooper.
And now that we've established Macavity is stealing these cats, it's time for the plot to start. Time to get on the hunt and stop Macavity from kidnapping any more cats, right? That's the next thing that happens.
No, Elliot, I'm so sorry
So-
to announce that now it's Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer. I regret to inform you.
So disappointing.
Not to pump the brakes too much on this
Oh, God.
on this roaring train of
Yeah.
a podcast, but at this point, during Buster Jones' song, we actually see Rum Tum Tugger, who had introduced himself previously, and he had run away. Do you think he was running away from Macavity so he didn't get dusted? Like, he's the only jellicle cat who introduced himself and doesn't get disappeared. What do you think, gang?
Oh, yeah.
I think you've put more thought into it, Stuart, than anyone involved in the
Yeah.
making of
You
the
know,
movie.
it's just because I'm kind of a Rum Tum Tugger myself.
As long as we're talking Macavity, I do want to say that Idris Elba has been handed a thankless chore by being given the idea that he has to yell a catchphrase as he disappears. But he gives it his all.
He really goes for it.
Look, if they're going to sell those Macavity talking dolls, they need things for it to say when you pull the string.
So at the end of Bustifer, after Bustifer has been disappeared by Macavity, all of the other cats have sort of scattered, and once again Victoria is sort of alone, and the only cats she is left with are Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer, who like sort of take her under their wing and say, we're going to show you our little neck of the woods. And they are house cats, but they're terrors to the people who own them, and they do a whole song that's slinky and weird about
Yeah,
how
I
they
don't
love
care
to
for the melody of this
No,
song.
it's very
Oh, so
bad,
you-
and this is a departure from the show version. The show version is a big like vaudeville acrobatic number where they're doing like double cartwheels on each other. They do like 3 cartwheels where they're holding each other's. It's like a whole deal, and I really recommend you watch it. This is my biggest problem with this movie is that they changed this melody because this one is a funeral dirge pace.
Yeah.
It is just so slow and boring and
it sounds weird each time they go Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer. Like they've got to try so hard to stretch out the word to match the
That's the
amount of
tease
space.
in it.
That's
I
true.
wanna-
And also it's very
they
rumpled.
want Mungo Jerry to be like a Jason Statham type, so clearly like he just keeps being like,
Yeah.
no pictures, right?
This song
Yeah.
did inspire the best audience talk in my second screening, and this is a 2-part joke, so prepare yourself.
Great.
Okay.
A
up.
woman just like in exasperation goes, "They're 3 inches tall. Look at the baseboard." And then there's a laugh, and then she reconsiders and goes, "Well, 6 in Park Slope." And I'm like, "What great local humor you have."
Yeah, that's great. There's the moment. So they're festooning Victoria with jewels, and
Yes.
those very jewels that she thought might buy her happiness instead form some kind of a cage and tie her to a bed.
Yes.
They chain her to a bed.
Oh God, it is so sexual. It's like a very Vicky Cristina Barcelona situation where like it's the part where Scarlett Johansson becomes the third to Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz.
Yeah.
Like they're clear, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a no-go for you. And then as soon as there comes the bark of a dog.
Which
no, and we
obviously the
kept
question
wondering-
is, what does that fucking dog's face look like?
Yeah, we had the same wonder. Does it look like a person too, or is it just a regular dog? Like, I don't know.
It's a reverse thing. It's a human body and a dog face.
Whoa, that would be so creepy.
Cool,
'Cause it
like
knows-
a
'cause
dog
then
boy
it's
from
nude, right?
Riffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
The other thing is this is the scene where I think it really clicked into place how strange the proportions were, because she's got like a watch as a collar, which, okay, I'll buy that for a cat, but she also has rings, like human rings, as bracelets.
Yes.
And they're huge on her.
Yes.
Like,
How
how big is that
is-
person's fingers?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think
And how small are their wrists?
I think that if this was like a stage design idea on stage, like, okay, we're gonna create this kind of fantastical world where like we're gonna have different stage like pieces be different sizes.
It's your classic Gilda Radner little girl type
Yeah,
thing, you know.
that would be fine because it's like this fantastical universe. But like they're constantly interacting with so much stuff in this movie, and the problem is the audience knows what size a cat is.
Yes.
The audience has seen cats. And now they're seeing cats.
It is like you expect at any moment a cat could fit through the shoelace hole of a shoe and then suddenly be as tall as a building. And the movie would be just like, deal with it, whatever.
But there are like 3 instances where a character interacts with a fork. And every time the fork is a different size.
Yeah. Well, forks come in different sizes, Jenny.
Oh, you're right. Oh, man. It was like the salad fork and the...
You know, one of those big serving forks and then like a trident that Poseidon left behind.
Absolutely.
That
left
makes so much
behind.
more
What was
sense.
he doing there?
Yeah.
I'm not
There were
Poseidon.
just
I don't know
boots
what
and a
he's doing with
trident.
Tridents behind.
Poseidon was whisked away to the heavens.
Oh my god.
I have to assume Macavity was like, Poseidon, and just turned him into dust, you know?
So,
because here's where we...
Victoria
Here- so-
is like chained to the door. She cannot get out because as soon as the threat of the dog happens, Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer just leave her. They leave her and they're like, bye, bye, bye. And they just laugh. And then magical Mr. Mistopheles appears because in this movie, there's a love story between Victoria and magical Mr. Mistopheles, which I'm fine with because I think magical Mr. Mistopheles in this movie is so hot. He has like a Robert Pattinson as Cedric Diggory vibe. Like he doesn't know how hot he is yet, but you can tell he's a little weirdo.
He's also kind of dressed like Jesus in Godspell, though.
Yeah,
That
and
was
his
the
fucking
case.
That works for
song
me.
sounds like Godspell.
Yeah.
my
And so
sister
magical
earlier
Mr.
today
Mistopheles rescues her by magicking a dog bone out of nowhere. Not the bone of a dog, but a bone that a dog would like. And then
I
he
mean,
throws it
we
in the
can't tell that's not
dog
actually the
loves it.
case.
They like clearly wanted Eddie Redmayne for that part so bad.
Of
and
course.
He wouldn't do it. But like he is completely...
Which is too bad because that's a great name for a cat.
Yeah.
The movie. I'm Eddie Redmayne, and I'm the cat that is okay in
Or-
the one
or-
movie, and then in other movies I'm not so good.
Or Domhnall Gleeson. He would have.
No.
That's a good cat name.
Eddie
so-
Redmayne is just himself as a cat.
After that is when we finally find out where Macavity has been taking all these cats, right? And I apologize if listeners can hear there's some crying going on outside the door due a baby, but that's okay. It'll
Imagine
go
those cries are from a dog barking at Victoria and
Yes.
magical Mr.
Just don't
Mistopheles.
start imagining that baby is a chicken and strangle it, Elliot. That's all I ask of you.
Oh, mash it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, do a real
so- 'cause-
farewell goodbye amen there.
So
we go out to a
Macavity been
barge,
taking all these cats?
a barge on the Thames where Macavity has been magicking his competition for the Jellicle Ball, and we find out that is the reason he has been magicking in the way. He wants to be the one that is chosen to go to the Heaviside layer, and he wants to make sure that all the competition is being wiped
The
out.
what?
The Heaviside layer.
Okay, what's that?
It's where the cats go to be granted a new life. It is death, I believe. They're just flying up there, but they believe they will be granted a new life. It's very sort of Heaven's Gate cult vibes.
Cool.
They're gonna get their
Very popular in the
long
70s.
New Balances. It's gonna be incredible. But yeah, we find that out. Rebel Wilson and James Corden are there together so that they can do a tag team ad lib situation.
But then we get to meet Growl Tiger.
Yes, Growl
the
Tiger.
most unexpected song of the night.
My favorite song in the entire thing.
Yes. It is 20 seconds long because he says like, to destroy my evil aims on the Jordan of the Times. And then it's immediately stopped by James Corden going, and I think it's Thames. It's Thames. That doesn't rhyme, see? So, blah, blah, blah. And then the whole thing is stopped. But then James Corden gets his little head
Bored into.
bored into by Growl Tiger. And it's a delight. Growl Tiger's song is like 4 minutes long in the stage version, and I just love that they just completely abandoned
shut
that.
it down, yeah.
Also, I will say, apparently a bit of James Corden ad lib, like the best bit of James Corden ad lib, got deleted from the movie, which is that apparently his biggest ad lib right after Growl Tiger started doing that is that he went, "Wait, are you just introducing yourself? I just did that." They wouldn't leave it. It just sort of upset the entire world.
Yeah. They'd be worried that people would be struck from their cat's reverie and stumble out of the theater immediately.
Taken out of the world. So we now know where they're being magicked off to. We go back to Victoria. Victoria has been rescued by Mistopheles, who takes her back to Munkustrap, the narrator cat, who is boring and has no discerning qualities. And Munkustrap is like, where have you been? And old Deuteronomy is almost here. And baby, there's a fog, and coming through that fog is Ms. Judi Dench, Dame Judi Dench. She is appearing, and when it pans out and you see her little legs, it's so unsettling. It's really upsetting. Her human hand with a wedding ring on it is in full view.
Yeah. It should be like an epic moment, but then they cut back and show you how tiny she is and how much distance she has to walk to get to them. And you're like, so is everybody just standing around watching this old lady walk?
Giant fur coat she's wearing.
Yes. And this is also the first time where I noticed like how weird the sound mixing of the movie is, because they will randomly, what Tom Hooper is so obsessed with reaction close-ups of people, but then he will have the sound mixing also turn up their weird harmony line. So like you're watching Munkustrap greet old Deuteronomy, but his part is this weird tenor line, and it's just like, just don't turn his up in the mix. Just keep it. It's a group number.
Better
Chill
than
out.
Mr. Mistopheles.
When Rum Tum Tugger is like,
yes,
giving
that's the best
strangest tenor line.
Well, he'll also he did the strangest thing in the first song, the Jellicle songs for Jellicle Cats, where he would just like cut abruptly to someone else singing in a completely different style very quickly, and then back to the main melody, and it's like this Moulin Rouge frenzy.
Yes, my favorite part of Jellicle songs is when they do the two others who do, and then it cuts to Idris Elba, and he just goes, what? And you think for a second, because then the continuation of the thought is like two others who do what Jellicles can and Jellicles do, but instead it just feels like there's a huge ensemble moment, and then Idris Elba just goes, what?
Yes. Yeah, it feels like Idris Elba has stumbled on the movie that he's in, and he's like, hold on a second.
It's like, oh, that's the audience surrogate that you want.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The audience is taking cats away after they've been introduced.
So we're finally at the Jellicle Ball at this point.
Finally
right?
at the Jellicle Ball.
But like they weren't all Jellicle balling before. Like why were they introducing themselves to get to the Heaviside layer?
Just
this is
that wasn't part of it.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
That was the like. If it's not, as if it's gibberish.
That was the like tailgate party before the Jellicle Ball.
Well, it's what they've always said. How do you get to the Jellicle Ball? Practice, okay?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Bustopher Jones and Jenny Any Dots are not getting chosen for reincarnation.
Absolutely
they might as well just burn their song early.
No, they're gonna fall into the river and get sucked up the chocolate pipe.
They never really explain what like the qualifications are for getting to the Heaviside layer either, because Bustopher Jones, as we've established, his song is just "I'm fat, I like to eat," and like, that is the entire thing.
Well, I think it could be in Defending Your Life, when they're basically saying like, you didn't make the most of your life. You had all these opportunities to make the most of it, and you held back. And Bustopher's like, I never held back. I saw something I wanted to eat, and I ate it. I enjoyed life to the fullest. Give me another one, please.
So that's the game he's playing?
Also saying that.
Well, I think it all comes down to the mystery of faith. That being saved by the Lord is not your choice. It's the Lord's choice. And the Lord is mysterious and operates according to old Deuteronomy's own arithmetic that mortal cats cannot hope to penetrate, except that in the end she picks the most obvious cat that we all thought she was going to pick.
Please, old Deuteronomy is her father. Call her old Dute. As
old Dute.
Remember
when old Dute was crucified between those two criminals and said, "You too shall dine with me in heaven tonight." Yeah. Hey, why'd she bring those criminals up to the Heaviside lair with her? I don't know. That's the mystery of old Deuteronomy.
I do like the idea of calling her old Dute, because that's going to get those. That's going to get the teens into it, right?
Yeah, totally.
I think it's the Heaviside lair. It's more kind of a Buddhist thing where you just sort of have to unburden yourself of the things of this life, and the last thing that Grizabella gets rid of is her pain, and that allows her to ascend to the Heaviside layer.
And then once they get to the Heaviside layer, their collar is weighed against a feather, right? And if it doesn't work, then wait, Dan, don't look behind you. There's a cat. Watch out! It's about to start singing. Archie's my name. And
Archie's making
my
muffins
game.
on
I
Natalie's
interrupt
code.
podcasts
that's
every
all right,
single
Natalie.
day.
It's fine.
So the Jellicle Ball,
The
there's a
Jellicle
lot
Ball
of...
begins. There's
there's
a
a
big
little-
dance showpiece. Everybody's tails are operating like
Is there a bit of a
dicks.
reprise of the Jellicle Cats song where they're like, explain what Jellicle Cats are? Not to, do a musical theater thing.
Yeah, no, they as they're walking into the Jellicle Ball, they all sort of start saying what Jellicle Cats are, but it keeps changing, and they're speaking it in a scary way. So there's one verse where they're like, Jellicle Cats come out. Jellicle Cats are of moderate size. Jellicle Cats, as we said, are small.
And they're black and white and of moderate size.
And they're small.
We have learned neither of those things.
I loved that, like, the first song in the musical is about Jellicle Cats. Then you get another song that's about something else. And then the third song is about Jellicle Cats again. And it's like, at this point in my head, I'm just like, okay, if you're gonna make up a word, you can't, like, use it all the time. Just, like, do it in 2 songs. Total.
No.
Total
You
in
gotta
the
do
musical.
it.
Yeah.
That's you got to sell it. You sell that word constantly until it no longer has any meaning. It just becomes a strange. It starts as a strange sound, then you're like, I kind of understand what they're saying, and then it's just a strange sound, and it loses like all comprehension to you.
This is the point at which Dan was like, "This is a Clockwork Orange." 'Cause it's just a bunch of like scary my Dan, not this Dan,
Your
but
boyfriend
my
Dan.
boyfriend
No, but also
Dan.
me.
A bunch of people just.
Yes.
Also Dan McCoy. Just like, because a bunch of people creeping into an abandoned theater with like weird, sinister intentions, saying words that don't totally make sense, and the audience feels like their eyes are like forced open.
Yeah.
That's not since like it's the only thing I can compare it to in some ways is in the way they repeat words and stuff is like how in Sweeney Todd they keep reminding you that the show's about Sweeney Todd.
Right,
Like every
right.
now and then they'll just be like, Sweeney Todd's the guy, remember?
Yeah,
But
this
it's a little bit like if in Fiddler on the Roof that every song was like, Jews, what are Jews? Well, we're Jews, I'll tell you about Jews.
Every song in Fiddler on the Roof is kind of like that.
A
Elliot.
little bit, yeah, I guess so.
This sequence where people in weird costumes dance into a abandoned church wearing top hats and shit remind me a lot of the first time I played a live action role playing game in a church after hours back in high school. What a vampire I was that night, guys.
Very cool.
Absolutely incredible.
It's a cliche to say something is dreamlike, but like this movie is dreamlike in that it has its own concerns. Like everyone in this have concerns that are very important to them, and within the movie it makes sense. Like within the movie everything is this constructed world, like, oh, okay, like it's important to be the chosen Jellicle Cat. Of course, we all know that. But as soon as you like wake up and step outside of the dream, you're like, what was all that nonsense about the Heaviside layer?
There are also many moments where you're like, is there any way that actually existed outside of my subconscious?
Yeah, it all takes place in a snow globe. I think it's Tom Hooper. Tom Hooper is shaking a snow globe full of cats.
I had like a very like clear half asleep thought this morning, which is that maybe the thing is like I have a dog. I love my dog, and most of my
as Judi Dench says at the end of the movie,
cats are not dogs.
Cats are not dogs.
You're right. But I spend so much of my time picking him up, giving him weird nicknames, and being like, spoofs the Pope of France.
Yeah.
And like just declaring weird things about him. And I'm like, what if all the cats are declaring stuff that humans have declared about the cats that they own?
Oh, could be.
Just repeating what
Like,
they've heard.
I would definitely be like, spoof's a little railway guy. He eats all the license, goes everywhere.
The train can't start without little Gus.
This big dance scene, this is the one I was talking about earlier where I was like,
Yes.
this actually works for me. But it starts with the moon comes out and
Yeah,
they
it's
all
like
start
climax.
twitching as if they're going to turn into werewolf cats.
Yeah. And then over the course of this dance, Grizabella sort of creeps in to see what's going on. And she like slinks out, and Victoria sees her, and she goes to see Grizabella out in the moonlight. And this is when Grizabella does the memory pre-prees. She is sort of like holding her face to the lamplight. It's really intense. And honestly, this is the first part where I like did get teary-eyed because Jennifer Hudson, I don't think she's great with dialogue in films, but Jennifer Hudson knows how to emote during a song and sound great doing it. And so I was very moved. And luckily, lest I get too moved, during this point in the movie. The next thing is Beautiful Ghosts, sung by Victoria.
We're going to fight about this,
white
Natalie.
cat.
I thought that Beautiful Ghosts, I know it's new for this movie version, but I really like the melody for that song a lot. I thought it was very, very pretty song. And as I said, I don't like many of these songs.
Sure. I think the song is not the problem. I think the space that it occupies is the problem for me, because it's sort of like, you look at Cats, even people who despise Cats, you have to admit, Memory is great.
Yeah.
And it's
banging.
like, okay, what is the iconic song from this show? The iconic song is about like an outcast discussing like the only memories that they have to sustain them. And then to follow up like at least the pre-pres of that with someone else coming up and being like, hey, so you think you have it bad? You at least have memories that are good. My life is worse than yours.
Well, that she's like, at least you have your memories. I'm young and have my whole life ahead of me. I
Exactly.
haven't done anything yet.
Yes.
Isn't that terrible? And that Grizabella's like, I'm going to kill you right now.
Yes. And also, weirdly, Francesca Hayward, who plays Victoria, is half black in real life. But the optics of the way that they have her as just a white cat approaching a cat who is clearly a woman of color and being like, hi, I have it worse because, like, sometimes people say I'm too beautiful to be around them. Like, it feels very supermodel.
No, I agree with that. It does feel like stealing the moment. But I guess that because I do not have any previous, like, attachment to the musical Cats, I had not seen it in any other format.
So what you're saying is you're like, I'm sorry that I don't love Cats as much as you, Nat.
Yeah, that's what I said.
What
I'm
you're saying is,
too
you're like,
addicted
at
to
least you
cats.
have your memories of the original Cats to cling to. What about me, who's never seen Cats? Isn't that the worst thing to be?
No, I'm saying that I only registered Cats as a bunch of stimuli that was being thrown at me. So my thought when I heard this was like, oh, pretty song.
Right.
Like,
I will
that's what
say
the
I
song
also
becomes.
like this song much better when Taylor Swift sings it.
yeah,
I like Taylor Swift's version on the soundtrack a lot.
What this song becomes, it eventually turns into Judi Dench watching them and sing talking words that were incomprehensible to me. It was like they flowed in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
My brain
Yes.
refused to register them.
Yes. Well, this is because then Judi Dench's song is from the actual show, and it leans into Andrew Lloyd Webber's favorite thing, which is just like recitative. That's a bunch of random notes together where it's like, here are some words I say now.
that was always like that was when I was a kid. That was my like mental parody of sung through musicals.
Yes.
because there is always that part which is like, and now to transition from this song to another, and it's just like, okay, well, this is not a melody.
Just
What
let
do you
the
say
listeners
to
know
that, sir?
Dan went from looking at Natalie to looking at me to really.
That's stagecraft.
Sold it.
Yeah,
He
you have to
sold
include
it.
the whole audience. You got to play to all the sides. This is theater in the round.
So, Dan, you were listening to a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan, is what you were saying.
That's right.
Great. So Victoria goes back in after Judi Dench has watched, and Judi Dench is like, it's time for the Jellicle Ball to start. And Victoria's like, I don't know if I can. And Judi Dench is like, why? And Victoria says, well, I'm not a Jellicle. And Judi Dench is like, well, you can watch and you can be my guest.
It's better if you wash.
It's very wild. And now the Jellicle Ball finally begins, even though we have been watching it happen forever. And the first player up is Ian McKellen as Gus the theater cat. And ooh, baby, this movie is good.
Yeah. No, this is like, look, I will make an argument that there are multiple moments in this movie that come very close to actually working well on their intended level. And all of them are when the camera just kind of stops and focuses on a performer and lets them like emote or sing or do their thing.
I mean, if you let Ian McKellen just perform what's essentially like kind of a speech song,
Yeah.
that he'll be able to do a great job. And,
Yes.
like
Yes.
the restraint. I wonder if there was like a waiver they had to sign when they were being cast that said like, I give them permission to turn my body into a CGI thing that just floats around in the air and leaps. And Ian McKellen was like, Sir Ian is not signing this.
I won't be doing that.
I'm sure they've signed a contract that says that we will look like absolutely normal cat humans. Not weird at all.
After
he did agree to say meow meow meow.
Oh yeah,
He probably
he
ad-libbed
does
that.
like an arpeggio of meow 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 meow.
Didn't he also like scratch his head against like a wall?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
he scratches his head against a
like
wall.
cat.
It's very sweet because he scratches his head against a wall for luck right before he goes on, and Mistopheles is watching him right behind, and Mistopheles copies that behavior because he like idolizes Gus the theater
Yeah.
cat, and it's very sweet
Yeah.
and contributed to my huge Mistopheles crush.
This was one of the scenes where I was like, why? Like, this scene works somewhat, and it's one of the less CGI-ish scenes, and it made me start thinking about like the Cowardly Lion in Wizard of Oz, where like that's not a realistic looking costume. Like, I'm never like, oh wow, there's a real lion walking around. And his Burt Lahr's performance is so broad, but when he's sad in it, it's like really moving to me. And I'm like, so how come this movie can't do that? Is it partly the CGI? Is it partly what I couldn't quite figure out?
Yeah.
How the Wizard of Oz was accomplishing what this one was not.
You
Right.
can't do it in general, but I'll tell you something. At the end of Ian McKellen's number, the second time I saw this movie in theaters, the audience burst into applause. The whole audience, and it was genuine applause. Like, it did not seem ironic. They're like, "Oh, holy shit! Some acting just happened in the middle of Cats."
Yes.
Well, and it's also that it's an older actor that we're very familiar with singing about being an old actor who has his memories of like it's one of the few times where I'm like, oh, the part and the this and Bustafer, I'm like, the part and the performer match perfectly, because James Corden does strike me like a big silly cat that likes to eat all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
and that loves garbage.
like it's the reason that like, but also the reason that like Alec Guinness can pull off Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is a silly character because he's an old man with magic powers that lives in the desert and takes a young man to a bar, because it's like, oh, this guy has like years of weight on him, from his past performances. Like, it's just it gives you a glimpse of the Cats that might have been.
But to your like Cowardly Lion point, I think the thing is when you're being shown something that is so clearly representative of something but not trying to be realistic. The reason musical theater works, like, nobody's singing, but they're also like, you know what, this is just the reality, so we're not going to try and make it seem realistic. It's just like the world of the show. This is like they went out of their way to try and make it realistic.
Yeah.
And so then you're like, well, now I can't take anything seriously.
It's like the movie would be better if people were like, oh, there's this one guy in the crowd that they forgot to CGI into a cat.
That would've
It's
been so
like,
much better.
If the movie would have been better if it was just people wearing regular clothes.
And that's why Ian
McKellen.
McKellen, I think, like, works really well, is because he's wearing some of the most clothes of anyone. Like, he's in a scarf and a like
would've
shabby
been
little
great,
coat, and like
Yeah.
his face, like, they did so much hair on the sides that it looks like an exaggerated cat.
Yeah, it
I
looks like
keep
a cat, but
gesturing.
No, it looks
A
like a
visual
cat, but it
medium.
also looks like an old man's like sideburns.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I felt like he was the most sort of human of the cats in terms of the design.
And
which
and
helped
certainly
a lot.
most of his movements, I think he does some great little cat touches.
Mm-hmm.
But to play with what you guys were talking about, it's part of the idea of like these, like a blockbuster movie musical, especially in the era of digital effects, is that there is a feeling of like, let's make it more realistic. Let's make it feel less like something that you could go see on stage at your your local gymnasium or whatever. And I think it does a disservice in some ways here, and in other ways it makes it great.
That's what I was trying to get at earlier, because I think that specifically like blockbuster filmmaking, they almost feel this obligation. They're like, okay, we're throwing a bunch of money at like a big property and good actors, so we also have to like put a bunch of money into CGI fur too. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't need to do that.
Well, here's another question this raises in my mind, which is, so there is a better version of this movie which is not as CGI crazy and embraces the reality of the stage as opposed to the reality of, special effects illusions. That is not a version of the movie that I think would have given me the same joy
Correct.
that I got
Correct.
watching
No,
this
it's true.
crazy nonsense flying around in front of my face. Because I got more genuine joy from this movie than I think any other movie I've seen. I'm not going to say all year because we're 1 week into the year.
Yes.
But like in the past 6 months. So like, is it this movie like? It's like the worst version of it, but I got more out of it than I would have out of like a good, straightforward adaptation of
especially
Cats.
for people that like bad movies, I think there's an aspect of this that's like, it's so earnest, because a lot of bad movies like try to pretend that they know what's going on. Also, it's hard for me, like I've talked about this, like I've never gotten into the Cult of the Room because it feels cruel to me on some level, and I don't care about Tommy Wiseau, but then there are like other people, well, especially for me as an actor, where I'm like, a lot of these people were just people that like wanted a job and like showed up and did a job, and were making fun of them as well, and like it just really bums me out. This is like so many people with so much money and influence who are going to be fine, like all committed to this thing that is so earnestly operatically bad and insane, but the flickers of goodness in it, like it's just like a whiplash inducing extravaganza, and it's just like you just feel so free. And
I've also I've also heard people argue who didn't have as good a time as we all obviously did, that like, oh, okay, like, but everything that's crazy about the movie Cats was, basically crazy in the show Cats. I'm like, yeah, I get where you're coming from, and I don't want to say that like those people can feel that way, but like for me,
you're not saying they can go like jump in a lake.
No, I'm not saying that.
Hike,
but for me, like the interesting thing is like, okay, they took this successful pre-existing material, threw a bunch of money and talent at it, but then along the way made every decision wrong.
Yes.
Like every single decision wrong.
Right.
And like I feel
or
like
right.
maybe if you do everything wrong, it equals good movie?
Yeah.
You're saying the movie shot the moon.
Yeah.
It lost so bad that it won.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it was bad in new ways, and that's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. It is. I mean, say what you will
Bad
about
movie
Tom
cocaine.
Say what you will about Tom Hooper. I never saw Les Mis, the movie version of it.
It's very bad.
But
It's not
this is-
fun. It's
this is
not
the
fun
first
in
time-
any way.
This is the first time I've ever considered him a director with a creative vision, and I'm like, I love it. Yes, because mostly what I know him from is The King's Speech, which is like fine. Like, it's a fine movie. It's nothing special. I remember seeing that movie and I was like, that movie hit every note I thought it was going to hit, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But so I was like, oh yeah, he makes those kinds of movies, and then to see this, and it's like, oh no, there's things living in his
Because this
head
is a
that I could not
neon
even have
fever
dreamed of.
dream, and like a fever dream, it's a thing where you're like your brain just keeps rushing and doing the same thing over and over again with slight variations.
Yes.
And to think that Jeffrey Rush was probably waiting as a stand-in for Gus the theater cat in case Ian McKellen hurt himself.
Oh my god. So speaking of Ian McKellen, Gus gets disappeared by Macavity, because honestly, Gus would probably be my jellicle
Of
choice.
course. Is this when he says Macavity?
Yes, this is the second Macavity, and this one is even more exaggerated. This one he goes, Macavity! Absolutely incredible. And then we get to my man, Skibbleshanks! Yay!
And what I love
The
about
railway
this
car.
is there's like 20 minutes of sad shit, and then it's just like, and now Skibbleshanks, the fabulous tap dancing cat.
And it's
Yeah.
incredible.
And Munku Strap starts talking about this guy, and I'm like, is he introducing himself? Who is this guy? Like, why are they introducing a new person at this
Well,
point?
this character, so he was a background dancer in a bunch of the when the ball started, and he's wearing red pants with suspenders over his cat chest, and he's got a hat and a
Super
big
Mario.
handlebar mustache, and you're like, you better introduce me to this cat,
Yeah.
because you cannot just doll up an extra
I
dancer
must
that way.
know who this
He looks-
steampunk cat is.
He looks like he's in a cat strip review.
Yes, yeah. He's
looks like
he's in Chip and
Waluigi.
Cats.
Yeah.
yeah.
He
he's
looks
in Cat
exactly
Waluigi.
like Waluigi. He's
it's
super sexy and very,
and he
very
does-
charismatic.
And his whole sequence I love, and his tap dancing is great, and it's almost like the movie is like, it could be a tap dancing on film. It is like one of the most classic things a movie can do. Like, it goes back to almost the beginning of film. It's certainly the beginning of sound film to watch tap dancing on screen. It's just the most basic
And-
cinema
Yes.
dancing you can do. And it's like, so every now and then the movie is like, let's undercut it with some crazy shot to something else real quick, and then we'll go back to the dancing.
And my wife was getting so much pleasure out of the shots of him tap dancing on the rail lines, and the other cats would be like watching his feet, because that's exactly what cats do.
And they tap dance all the way out onto the train tracks on the river. It's like a very magical reveal. And every time I see it, no matter what capacity of mind I am in, I am just like, oh, they're out. And I just Pavlovian response, start clapping.
All I could think was that the train is going to come. And it's going to just splatter all these cats.
I get anxious. There's also a big part in the song when it's like, and the lock on the door, and all the cats go, woo, woo. And I love that part. That part, really excellent. And then at the end of Skimbleshanks, the railway cat, he starts doing a spin, but then he starts spinning up into the air, and everyone in the audience is like, oh, what's going on? And then he spins himself into freaking dust, and it's Macavity again.
Oh, no, Macavity.
And this time, Macavity says, ineffable.
Ineffable.
This spin into dust is a GIF available on the internet. You need to seek it out.
There's a moment I need to know if there's a GIF of it. I think it's from Tum Tugger, but there's a point where one of the cats is just like, does that kind of gritted teeth, like, I don't think so, and I want to use it so badly on Twitter.
Skimbleshanks gets disappeared and before anyone can even know what has become of Mr. Skimbleshanks, there's some sensual music that starts happening, and a crescent moon comes down from
and you're
the
like,
sky.
Mac tonight?
And you're like, oh man, whomst could this be but Taylor Swift, who is wearing kitten heels, wink wink, and has such prominent boobs, and she is just maxing and relaxing on her crescent moon, and she starts singing a whole song about Macavity.
Yeah.
And she's got like a bedazzled catnip cocktail shaker that she's sprinkling sparkly catnip, which is making all the cats horny or tired. I can't tell.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a poppies in the Wizard of Oz type thing.
Okay.
Yeah, not since Val Kilmer casting drugs to the animal people of the island of Dr. Moreau was I more weirded out and kind of confused by the effect that this thing was having on animal people.
This is one of my favorite stories now about cats, which is that Taylor Swift's dad had the idea for her to have catnip, and apparently came to set. Taylor Swift gave an interview about this. Her dad came to set on one of the early days and was like, hey, Taylor she should be catnipping everyone, and it makes them all go crazy. And Tom Hooper did not know what catnip was.
Oh, wow.
He's doing cats, and he didn't know what catnip was.
Because I could only assume that's the only reason there was not already a catnip gag in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm not. Full credit to Taylor Swift's dad, but it doesn't surprise me that one of the great satirists of the English language, Jonathan Swift, would come up with an idea like that. He said, "Director Hooper, I have a modest proposal for you about this scene."
I love Taylor Swift in this movie because you just get such a clear picture. She is such a mean girl who likes the VHS of Cats and makes you watch it at her sleepovers.
Yes.
And
if you fall asleep, she's gonna put water in you.
It's like you can see her as a little girl bossing her other friends around to be her backups for her choreographed version of this song.
Exactly.
But I think but that's the right feel for this character. For what's her name?
Bombalurina.
Hey man, I was having a great time. I was slinking around in my seat at this point.
Also, Taylor Swift was the first person cast in this movie.
Oh.
Taylor Swift was the first person Tom Hooper asked because she was almost Eponine in Les Mis, and I guess this was Tom Hooper's sort of olive branch, or I'll give this to you instead.
Well, that would have been a nightmare.
This was her Mary Poppins to Julie Andrews for missing out on My Fair Lady.
Exactly.
Oh, no, Sound of Music, I guess it was. Sound of Music.
Absolutely
wild. But why, I mean, is this character, shouldn't she have been Old Deuteronomy or Grizabella or something?
What do you mean?
I don't know. If this is the first person cast, it's a weird role to cast first.
But I feel like Jenny is right. I feel like Jenny's onto something in that, if there's a filmed version of the show, and this song in the show is it's two women in the show that are doing it together, but Bombalurina is one, and she's the hottest cat. She's the young hot cat on the scene, and it's belty. It's a huge number, and it becomes this huge female empowerment number by the end, because none of the men sing it in the show. Like, it just becomes when there's that huge build, all of the female cats just like crowd around her and are just her backups. And I could see how if you grew up addicted to cats, you'd be like, I'm Bum Ballerina. And also, this is where they could, like, it seems clear to me that everyone who was associated with cats, like the bigger stars, came and did their stuff and then pieced out. And so I feel like it was an easier ask for Taylor Swift to do this.
T Swift was probably going to be hanging out the whole time.
She was on location in Cat London for weeks in her trailer waiting for her scene.
Like this big showpiece number and then peace out.
And this is where they list all of Macavity's qualities, right?
Yes, including that he has broken every human law.
Okay.
Every human law.
and this is when we get to the after the
which is weird because he doesn't sing his
I'm sorry,
own
I know you
song.
made the joke earlier, but now I'm just really thinking about the ramifications for the first time.
Every human law.
Every human crime. Oh, he's done terrible things. Macavity has done horrible things, but also kind of silly things. But this is after the mice babies. This is the second most terrifying sight to me. Is, as we mentioned, when Macavity appears with no trench coat and he just looks like he's just a castrated man.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's a really Samson Shorn moment. Like, if we had seen Idris Elba that naked the whole movie, it would have been one thing. But because we've been shown Idris Elba in a hat and trench coat, he maintained a level of dignity.
Well, and it also means that Macavity is making the choice to show up naked.
and
Macavity is the one that's like, this is my big number. I gotta take it off.
And I feel like of the performers, he doesn't quite have the same pipes as everyone else. Maybe I'm just being a jerk.
No, he sings for a second in his first appearance, and he's like, Macavity is a bad cat and a monster. Like, what's going on? But yeah, he's so naked at the end of his number. His big number ends. They made a whole light up staircase happen, and at the end of it, Deuteronomy walks up, and Macavity is like, "Well, clearly I won. I'm the best one." And Judi Dench says no, and then he magics her away. Old Deuteronomy is gone. Oh no, it's very sad. It's very sad.
Time for the new Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Time for the best song in the movie.
Movie. But also before that, they go to the barge, and my favorite line happens, which is they try to force Deuteronomy to walk the plank, and he says, like, just make me the jellicle choice. Just say it's me, and then, like, we can all go home. And Judi Dench turns around, and with every bit of gravitas she has, she goes, "You will never be my jellicle choice."
I mean, I have to assume that. I mean, again, she was almost gonna be in Cats when it was on the stage when she was younger. But I assume after being in the Chronicles of Riddick, she was like, "I'll say whatever. Just give me whatever dumb line, and I'll say it."
You will never be my jellicle choice. But then we go back to the Egyptian theater, which is where they're having the jellicle ball, and none of them know how they're gonna get old Dude back. This is when Mungo Jerry calls her old Dude, and Victoria is like, "Well, Mistopheles can do magic," and the song Magical Mr. Mistopheles, which in the show is just Mistopheles being arrogant and singing about himself, now in this movie becomes like, we all gotta psych up Mr. Mistopheles.
And I gotta say, there's something about the way it's shot where, like, he's standing on the stage with the footlights on him and the cats are kind of like gathered around some, like, from below, that it really felt to me that suddenly the movie of Cats transformed into a high school production of Cats. It had this weird feeling.
Yes.
It's so confusing because Macavity had disappearing powers and stuff. But Mistopheles really just had, like, the magic he had was like cards.
Yeah, it was all parlor magic.
Yeah, it's not like, it's weird that she's like, oh, he does magic. He could probably do other kinds of magic.
That's because
too.
Victoria is somewhat brain damaged from being tossed out of a car in a sack.
Yeah, honestly,
so like,
she got tossed out with vigor.
So this is very like 70s. There's a little bit of rock to it, right? It's a little bit of swing.
I'm just gonna go out. I'm just gonna go and say, not a fan of this song.
Really?
Wow.
The audience, we were so on board.
The audience that we saw with was singing and swaying with it. But that's, you know what? Maybe it's just because this plus the do.
And you guys are in Hollywood, right?
Those
It's
are the
full of-
only things I knew about it. So it was like, when it finally showed up, I was like, oh yeah, this song. Whereas every other song was a delightful new discovery for me.
Right.
Like opening up an oyster and finding not a pearl, but some kind of like a squid's eyeball
with a cat face on it.
with a cat face.
Yeah. I'll say I don't listen to this song on its own ever, but in the experience of watching it in the theater with an audience, it's one of my favorites in the context of watching the thing.
Natalie, that comment raises way more questions.
Well, because I think that it's so great in an audience. In the
I'm
theater.
imagining Natalie at the gym. Listen to all the cat songs.
Yeah, I'm listening to Skimbleshanks on the treadmill.
I guess that makes sense. You're right.
But I do think it makes sense that this plays so well with an audience because it is that moment of kind of like clap your hands and Tinkerbell will come back to life.
Yeah,
and
it's exactly that.
And everything in this movie is so dumb, but at this point, no matter how dumb it is, everyone has somehow bought into it, and they're like, yes,
All
do
of
your
the
magic.
All of the people by this point in the movie that hate the movie and wouldn't have been on board have walked out, and everyone that's left has let the movie happen to them and are just luxuriating in it.
And I should mention the baby mice come back while he's singing his song, and there's a bizarre moment where he like lifts off his hat and there's mice on his head, and one of them falls to the ground and scurries away, and no one seems to notice.
No.
It was like, so did they just like add that in like Sergio Aragone's Margin cartoon style after they made the movie, and no one knew it was going to be there? Like, it was just so strange to me.
The mice were all upset about it too.
Yeah, they were not happy.
Yeah.
They were horrified.
Yeah, and then he just puts his hat back on over the remaining two mice and is like, "Shut up."
I'll eat you later.
It was at that moment that I was like, oh, this is the movie Tim and Eric should have made instead of the movie they did make.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he does it. They managed to get his confidence up.
Yes,
And
they
have a little
magic
bit of a
Judi
fake out where
Dench right on
They
back.
think they did. They think they didn't magic back old Doot, but then she's standing right behind them.
Yep, it's.
Then she sings a verse.
Yeah, she does sing a verse,
Yeah.
and when we first hear Judi Dench's voice in the verse, I did gasp aloud at the premiere to a point where there was like a smattering of laughter at me being shocked when everyone knew it was happening. Like it was being telegraphed so intensely, and yet I was overwhelmed.
So after this like 7-minute song where they only sing that his name is Magical Mr.
It just
Mistopheles,
goes on forever.
Max Ash pointed out that the funniest moment in the movie is Munkastrap then at the end saying, "And now we are introducing Magical Mr. Mistopheles." Oh, is that what we were doing?
Oh, this whole time? Wow.
It's like Munkastrap was in the bathroom during the song, and he missed his cue, and he just came out like high school play style and just yelled his line onto the stage no matter what was going on.
I think this was around when I went to the bathroom during the movie because I held it for so long because I had no concept of where I was in the movie.
Yeah.
Or in physical space.
Oh my god.
Meanwhile, on the boat, Bustafer and Jenny Anydots, they use their powers to defeat Growl Tiger and knock him into the water, and he's dead, I guess.
Oh, and the final thing of it, they like do most of the work, and then Gus, the theater cat, goes to the plank in front of Growl Tiger and scares him off by recreating the performance that he talked about all through his song, which is the Fiend of the Fell. And he does this by going, Fiend. And you can't tell what he's saying. He just goes,
This is one of many things that totally eluded me the first time I saw the movie and then opened like a flower to me the second time.
He says, Fiend of the Fell.
I could understand. It was like Shakespeare. I could understand the gist of what he was talking about, but if you asked me the specifics, I'd be like, I don't know. It's like he's clearly recreating the thing he used to do, but I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what he means. Like,
Did we also mention that the way Jenny Anydots escapes by ripping off another skin suit?
Yes!
Either she has constantly regenerating outer skin, or she was wearing several different layers of her dance.
Elliot,
She's the
to
Russian
suggest
doll of
skins
cats.
Elliot, to suggest anything but the first thing is horrifying and horrible.
Matryoshka cat.
There's something about wearing a skin suit from another person that is terrifying. But then wearing multiple skin suits, all I can think about is how sweaty you would get underneath. It just feels gross.
And all the planning involved.
Oh man, and you got to tailor the ones on the outside to be bigger than the ones on the inside, so it fits over.
all right.
And you don't have a lot of time,
Let's
so you
not
have
go
to
too
swiftly
far.
tailor them.
Yeah. So old
It's like
Deuteronomy
it's a
is
little bit like in the Wile in the cartoons where it's the wolf and the sheep,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they've each dressed up as each other, and they continue to remove their costumes until at the end the wolf is holding a stick of dynamite, and you're like, wait, that stick of dynamite was walking around dressed as a sheep.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's the wolf and the sheepdog, and they're wearing each other's skin. Anyway, it's a great cartoon.
Old Deuteronomy is back, and luckily it's now time for Memory, the song we've all been waiting for. Victoria finally, she goes out, she brings back in Jennifer Hudson, and the lead into Memory, the way Memory starts, is Victoria just looks at Jennifer Hudson and goes, sing. And then Memory happens. And
Audience surrogate says sing to Jennifer Hudson.
yep.
And the only way it could have been better is if during the middle of the song, a cat off to the side of the stage had picked up a phone and said Uncle Andrew, it's your nephew Gary Lloyd Webber. I'm a cat. Anyway, you know that song you've been looking for, and then held up the old phone, but they didn't do that.
When Jennifer hits
And the
Hudson,
phone would be very strangely proportioned for the cat's body.
Yeah, it takes like 10 cats to pick up the phone, and yet somehow the rotary dial is smaller.
It's like
than
the phone
cat.
in Top Secret. No, when Jennifer Hudson hits her big dramatic note at the end of this song, that was the second genuine applause break in my theater.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that key change moment, that big modulation, it's so satisfying. She sounds incredible. She adds a little bit of a growl on the All Alone with the Memory. So it's just adding enough of her own sort of spin on that song. It's just great. It's just great. They also there's not a lot of funny camera stuff going
There's
on. They
nothing.
just
It's right on
it's
her face and Deuteronomy's face.
just let her do the thing, and she does the thing, and I cried. Oh,
there's
how I cried.
It's like the difference between a movie that is throwing all sorts of crazy junk at you and a movie that is there are things that are genuinely entertaining performance things, like singing beautifully or tap dancing, where it's enough to just put that on screen so you can see it, and that's enough to make the movie. But every other scene, it's I don't feel confident that this is going to hold the audience's attention, so maybe there should be trombones and flowers flying around the screen.
Yep. And
It reminded me of a. Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah,
It reminded me of a. There's a Louis Malle documentary called God's Country, that's about this small rural town, and there's a scene where it's just a wedding, and the people are dancing at the wedding, and there was something about this being on film suddenly shows me how special it is. If I was seeing it in real life, I might not realize how much how captivating it is just in its existence. And that song, it's like that. I think if I saw it in a theater, it might not have hit me. Maybe because it's a person singing it in real life, but on film, it's just this is all it is, and it's still so captivating. And to put it on film so simply is they knew what they were doing for once.
And it's a fairly simple song.
Yeah, they let it be her
Yes.
I dreamed a dream moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it works. And
She kills it.
She wins
Yeah.
the Jellicle Ball. She is Judi Dench's Jellicle choice.
Yeah.
And also
The
right
death
after
cult has their sacrifice.
Yes, and also it's very it becomes
She's
the
the May
whiplash
Queen.
of going back to how bad the movie is after this genuinely good and sort of tasteful moment.
Yes.
Is that right after this happens, they force everyone to start doing cat moments of affection with each other and start just rubbing each
Oh.
other as a way of saying good job on this song. And
just
you're the
remember
Jellicle
Bu-
choice.
bunching,
They all
call
look
it.
like they're about to kiss each other, but then their heads jerk away at the last minute.
Yes.
Cats do.
Yes.
And she gets into the I guess the vehicle that takes you to the Heaviside lair, which is a hot air balloon attached to a chandelier.
Yeah.
Mr. Mustaflis lights all the candles, and she floats up. And there's a moment here where I was and then macavity is no, me, and he tries to hang on to it and falls off above Trafalgar Square. And for a moment I was are we going to see macavity slam against the pavement and die?
Me
That would be
too.
terrifying.
Well, there's also this is this big dramatic moment, and Idris Elba cat jumps onto a stray piece of cloth coming off of this, and it's a moment from Marmaduke or something. Like
Yeah.
it becomes a totally different movie.
Yes. And then
Or
he
Hobbs and
tries
Shaw or something.
he tries to say his final magic phrase is he tries to use ineffable one more time and it doesn't work. And then he goes, ruh-roh. Real like, oh no, I guess he's not magic anymore. I guess this entire experience has taken away his ability to do magic.
Yeah, I thought I saw cartoon sweat drops appear on his forehead.
Now I wish he had hit the ground and then went, me, ouch. That would have been... But instead, he just falls on the top of Nelson's column, right? Like that's the and all the cats have gathered around the lions of Trafalgar Square, which
are
this is what really
cats.
got me. Was I was
Lions are cats too.
The what? Yeah, lions are cats too. What really got me here is I was like, could they not get a photograph of Trafalgar Square? Like it's this crazy CGI Trafalgar Square, and the cats look like they're made out of the lions look like they're made of Irish Spring soap. Like they're so bright and green, and everything is so weird looking. I was like, this is a real place. Like you didn't need to crazy it up. Just stick some cats around there. Come on.
Yep. And it is at this point that even though there has been no fourth wall breaking the entire movie, Judi Dench suddenly looks straight into your eyes and makes you complicit in everything that has been happening. And on second watch of this, I noticed that Munkustrap is very aware of her going directly to the audience and keeps sort of like looking at her quizzically, and it becomes Fleabag.
Yeah, so it's just Fleabag season 2. Basically.
Yes.
I wanted to say about the reaction.
Where did you just go?
I wanted to say about the reaction shots of this is they stay on this close. It's a tight shot, but they still have all 4 actors on camera at the same time. They got 2 cats on one side, 2 cats on the other side. Old Deuteronomy is one of the middle cats, and she's delivering this long speech to the audience, and they have absolutely nothing to do. So they're just staring at her very, very intensely while squirming around. And it looks like all the actors are like pre-orgasmic or something. It's very weird if you start paying attention to them.
It was so strange to see. So the end shot of this movie should be that the chandelier is going off into the sky, and all the cats like wave goodbye, and then big music rise, and then it's out in the credits. But it's like the movie is over, and then Judi Dench is like looks at the camera like, "All right, let's go over what we learned." You're probably wondering how we ended up here.
Well, let me
tell you a few things about cats.
Ellie,
You
this
think
is the
this
part
would
of
be
the
happening during the
Cats,
credits
I saw the
or
movie.
something?
This is the part of the movie that is for people who wandered in thinking it was a cat's instructional video for like owning cats, like how you're supposed to treat a cat.
Yeah.
She's like, they sing about how cats are not dogs, and I'm like, seems pretty fundamental. Maybe you should have opened the movie with that one. Like, but it felt like to me like the end of Thor Ragnarok, where the movie is over, but Taika Waititi's character is still joking around, and I was like, movie, you're over. Like, just show me some credits. Get out of here. But I guess and each time Judi Dench finishes a verse of this song, you're like, and the song is over.
Longest, and they all have to repeat it.
But it's like, it feels like a bit I would do, where the song like just keeps going, and every time you think it's over, she starts singing, and I just imagine the Dan cat being like, "God damn it, Judi Dench!" Like, come on.
Because it is panned out, and then like it goes right back to close up, and it's like she does an aggressive turn right back to us. Like it pans out, and you're like, "Oh, thank God!" Like that part is over. I felt very put on display. I felt like I was in the play, and I didn't want to be in the play.
You know what? My guess is maybe they saw the movie of Into the Woods, where that final song about how children will listen for some reason was just over a wide shot and then the end credits, and not really in the movie. And they were like, "We're not doing that. Mm-hmm. Every song's on camera. We are not. Maybe they're look. We are not skimping on it."
Maybe Tom Hooper saw Funny Games, and he's like, "That's what I want to do. Make the audience feel like they're in the action."
They finally finish that song, and we think it's done, and then Judi Dench reminds us that the storyline that has been imposed on the film is, will Victoria become a jellicle cat? I wonder. And then she tells her that she's a jellicle cat, a dear little cat that was Rosebud all along.
And we get the final shot of the movie which I love, which is just another wide shot of that chandelier balloon flying up to space, where the cat will presumably die alone.
Gravity. I want Gravity with Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah.
It shimmers away with magic, and we know that she's made it to the heavy side layer, which I assume turns out to be a place where Alf eats cats. Like she's just on Melmac, and they're gonna eat her. This whole time, old Deuteronomy's just been working for the Melmacians, just like helping them get supplies of cats, and it's terrible.
Friendly Fire is a podcast about war movies, but it's so much more than that.
It's history.
It was just supposed to be another assignment.
It's comedy.
Under no circumstances are you to engage the enemy.
It's cinema studies.
It's a hell of a combination.
So subscribe and download Friendly Fire on your podcatcher of choice.
Or at MaximumFun.org. And also come see us at San Francisco Sketchfest on January 16th. You can get tickets at sfsketchfest.com.
Mission accomplished.
Hi, I'm Allie Gertz.
And I'm Julia Prescott, and we host
Round Springfield.
Round Springfield is a new Simpsons podcast that is Simpsons adjacent. In its topic, we talk to Simpsons writers, directors, voiceover actors, you name it, about non-Simpsons things that they've done because, surprise, they're all extremely talented.
Absolutely. For example, David X. Cohen worked on The Simpsons, but then created a little show called Futurama. That's our very first episode.
Yeah.
So tune in for stuff like that with Yardley Smith, with Tim Long, with different writers and voice actors. It's going to be so much fun. And we are every other week on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Guys,
I'm sorry that my synopsis was like so long that I wanted to talk.
Yeah, you're
I've
to
never
blame.
wanted to talk
It's not the
about it.
interruptions.
I've never wanted to talk so much about it.
The I have a lot of questions about what the premiere audience,
Oh yeah, shit.
how they
We've done
reacted
that.
to this movie.
So now it's time for our roving entertainment reporter, Natalie Walker. She's our premiere princess. She goes to all the movie premieres and
I'm
tells
sort of
us
the
about it.
Maria
Right, guys,
Menounos of the Flophouse.
I'm going to make room for recommendations at the end of the show, but I'm going to say that this behind-the-scenes stuff takes the place of letters. Let's
Wow.
just
Let's
stipulate
not
that.
worry about letters.
Great.
Oh, well, there never was a letter segment in this episode of Flophouse that was about cats right now. Ba-bum. Natalie will tell us about the premiere of Cats Right Now, which she attended a few weeks ago. Ba-bum. What was it like to see this movie?
Can't believe Elliot's
with
coming up with this
the
melody for the
movie
first time.
called
Can't afford the
Hats.
music rights, Elliot.
Oh my god. Okay. So, first
Natalie Walker is a curious cat.
So, first of all, right before the premiere, I got drinks with Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is who I went with because his wife had no interest in seeing cats, and he had seen how unhinged I was about the trailers online, and he was like, "You seem like you have the right mindset about this movie."
That was a connection. I was curious.
Yeah.
With the.
Yeah. Well, we had like I had watched Fosse Verdon at his house when he was like doing that every week, having different like groups over, and so he knew I wasn't a murderer. And then I like did a workshop that he is working on in the fall, and so he knew that I could be around industry people and not all, murder them.
Yes.
And so
so
that was the.
We've talked to him briefly through the auspices of the McRoys.
Uh-huh.
A very, very, very nice human being, and very publicly nice. So we will not ask you what his reaction
Exactly.
was. But
Exactly.
I'm curious about everyone else's.
So we got
My wife has talked to him about George Whipple many times.
we got drinks before, and like he had gotten like a full dinner, but I got there a little later. And there was a group from Universal at the table next to us, and they had made a big point of coming over and being like, "Oh, like Lynn, we're so glad you're coming tonight," and blah, 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 blah. And then they leave, and then like 15 minutes later, Lynn and I get up to leave, and the server comes over and is like, oh, that other table took care of all of your stuff except mine.
Weird.
They left my one. They took care entirely of Lynn, and they left my single cocktail to fend for itself.
Wow.
Wow.
So funny to just sort of be like, we don't know who that is, so fuck that. But then
Wow, what was it like being the Grizabella of that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like I had been absolutely hissed at. I had to crawl over to Lincoln Center for the premiere. Actually, Lynn was like, "Well, you know what you got to do." So we go to the premiere, and
so that double Long Island iced tea you had to pay for, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sort of like raring to go. We get to our seats, and I'm looking in front of us, and first of all, our row is Andrew Lloyd Webber's daughter is right there, and then the Niederlander family who own half of the Broadway theater. It's this insane row, and I'm like, Natalie, please don't embarrass yourself tonight. Please don't do anything insane. Keep it together.
Do not gasp when Judi Dench starts singing.
Yes, exactly. And so oh my God. So then I look in the row in front of us, and there's this 10 empty seats, and I'm like, wow, I guess a lot of people bailed on Cats. And then I realized as it was starting that was the cast seats, and they were all going to be sitting right in front of us. And I was like, oh no, I have to chill out. But before it started, Tom Hooper goes on stage and introduced all of the cast, and that's when he said, this person is the first person that I cast, and it's Taylor Swift. And I was like, you cast Bomb Ballerina first? Okay.
Thank you.
And then he says, and now two consummate clowns, Rebel Wilson and James Corden. Rebel Wilson walks out, and everyone is sort of confused and looking around, and Tom clearly whispers off mic, James, and then Rebel uses her mic and is just like, oh, James has had enough. And everyone's laughing because we think it's a bit, and he's gonna come out soon because he was
at
the premiere. He was photographed on the carpet, and fully no, he never came out. He apparently left right after the red carpet and did not go see the movie.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Tom Hooper starts talking more about the movie, and he says it's really about the perils of tribalism and the importance of acceptance. And then he brings out Andrew Lloyd Webber and introduces Andrew Lloyd Webber as the reason all of us are here. Andrew Lloyd Webber walks out and makes a point to say, I haven't even seen this movie yet, so I really feel that even though I wrote the music, and he's trying to say it in a way where he clearly wants everyone to perceive it as a magnanimous thing.
Yeah.
But what he ends up saying is, so at the end of the day, I think that really more even than my project, this is Tom's movie. And it was just
so it's it comes off like Tom Wolfe taking out those ads after Bonfire of the Vanities came out, where he was I didn't have anything to do with this movie.
Yes,
do not blame me.
I also
his
I assumed
thing.
you were going to say that he comes out and be like, I don't know what he was talking about. This is just a play about cats.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's always said.
Yes,
about.
it's the famous Hal It's About Cats story where Hal Prince was who is this? Who are the political stand-ins for these cats? I'm so intrigued. And Andrew Lloyd just said Hal It's About Cats.
So who is so vain?
I don't know why I didn't think about this before, but him bringing him out and being the person while here, it makes me think that Andrew Lloyd Webber is the Stan Lee of cats, and I wish now that he had a cameo in the movie as a dog catcher who's doing what I can to help you cats, wink, and then runs off.
Or he could have been the dog. Andrew Lloyd Webber could have been the dog.
Yeah.
That might have been him.
So then the movie starts, and already we're sort of the perils of tribalism thing. Tom Hooper was clearly taking it so seriously in his speech before that everyone was a little anxious about how we were expected to perceive this Cats.
Yeah.
And it starts, and thankfully, Jellicle Songs is such a crazy song that is notoriously insane. And so it starts, and we're all sort of party song, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is silly a little bit. We're laughing and sort of trying to enjoy it audibly. And then after Jellicle Songs happened, it became increasingly clear over the next 3 minutes that the movie was expecting us to take it very seriously. And then it just was sort of eerily silent for most of the movie. There were like titters of laughter when Rebel Wilson appeared and was like scratching herself and at some of the improv. But for most of the movie, everyone was just like stoic. Mistopheles, nothing. Everyone was just sort of sitting on their hands. It was really, really wild. And then that final, when you don't know that Judi Dench is going to look at you, the energy in the room, it was absolutely insane.
Well,
it was
that's
all
what they
that
say.
anyone
Even
was
Judi
talking
Dench
about
can
at the
look
after
a can.
party.
Look, that's what they say.
Yeah. At the after party, all people were talking about was we were like, what did you do when Judi Dench looked at you? Like, how did you perceive it?
Judi Dench is like, I know why you're here.
Yeah.
You think this is funny, don't you?
Yes.
And were people lining up, to talk to Tom Hooper afterwards and be like, well, you know what? The screen was very clean. It was all...
They had like a big table at the after party, and I didn't realize like how famous Lynn is. And so this like woman like ran over and was like, Andrew and Tom want you to come over to their table now. And I was like, I can't go there right now.
Yeah.
I had 3 wines during that movie, and I am too scared of what I will do and say. And so I stayed away from that entire vicinity. But I will say Jennifer Hudson walked by me looking gorgeous, and I screamed, "You're iconic" at her. And she was really nice. She was like, "Oh, really? Thank you so much." She seemed very genuinely touched. And so I love you, Jennifer Hudson.
She didn't like push you over in schoolyard or something.
Yeah.
One time I was like having this like really bad weekend, and I ended up being at Target in West Hollywood at like 11 p.m. on a Saturday, and I felt so uncool. I was like, I don't have anyone to hang out with. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I walked down the aisle, and Jennifer Hudson was in that same Target. And I just had this moment of, if Jennifer Hudson's in this Target, it's okay for me to be in this Target too. I must be living my best life. Because she was just like so cool and glamorous. Anyway, she really is. She's iconic.
So glamorous.
That's
She's
exactly
iconic.
the same as running into her at a cool party that Lin-Manuel Miranda invited you to.
Target is better. I think Target is better than the Cats party. There's less existential crisis involved at a Target, I feel.
To see Jennifer Hudson just pricing out generic brand toilet paper like that is just inspiring, you know?
It was so inspiring.
Like, Jennifer, you're an Oscar winner. You don't have to get Scott. You can get Charmin Ultra Soft even.
Is there more stuff? Or
I don't.
So you're saying, so you think the people at the premiere weren't like, love it. This is great. You got a hit on your hands. Everyone was kind of aware that it was a crazy mess.
Yes, everyone was aware that it was a crazy mess, but also like a lot of people were already sort of being like, this is going to be a really fun movie to go watch with friends later.
Mm-hmm.
What was the cast doing like during the movie? How were they reacting?
I like did not clock what they were doing. I was so overloaded with anxieties about how I was coming off that I feel like I didn't really clock them, because I was just like, please don't embarrass yourself in front of the shiny celebrities that are
it is a
about.
little bit also like the sun is exploding in front of your face and there's like a kid doing a cute thing and you're like, well, I don't know what the kid was doing. The sun was exploding right in front of me.
Exactly. I have never been so hyper aware of myself in a space while also being attacked with I like had no idea what anyone else around me was dealing with. I could only like the audible things I could really pick up on, but I wish that I had looked down more often at Miss T Swift.
You didn't want to be the one like leading the audience in like a group cheer or anything.
Right. The closest I came was that gasp for Judi Dench, because I kind of thought we all were going to be like, wow, he did it. And instead it was only me. I was fist bumping during Jellicle Cats, which did lead like a very old man in the row behind me to come up to me after and was like, I like watching you more than the movie.
Aww.
Oh, wow. Such a sweet old man thing to say.
Yeah, it was a very sweet old man thing to say, because I really was like, during the high energy moments, I was trying to be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. There was a man in my row who was dressed up as Grizabella, which I felt like was the correct vibe.
And
was
they
in like a floor length fur and full on.
I'm assuming they did
Amazing.
not play trailers before the movie. So
No.
you didn't
Usually
get
at premieres they don't have the trailer.
you didn't
Yes.
get well. They didn't show a trailer for In the
Call of the
Heights,
Wild.
the
No. It
was so
upcoming
funny if they're
Lin-Manuel
like,
Miranda.
Tom Hooper's like, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. And now, my big production. This is a movie I've spent years on, Cats. But first, what else is coming to a theater near you? And then the Sonic trailer starts playing.
That would be great.
Also, he did say that he finished the movie at 9 a.m. the day before.
Oh wow!
And
He's
so
like,
that was a cool thing to hear before.
I'm on so much speed
Something
right now.
of this magnitude.
oh,
Look,
wow.
guys, I don't want to do a traditional final judgments because I think we all really
all liked
loved
it.
ourselves. But
Yeah.
that sounds weird. Loved seeing this. But I just want to say, like, I want to give a little space for some like final like outpouring about Cats because I will tell this story. I came home from Cats having a great time with Stu and Charlene and Audrey. As I was going to bed, I have sleep apnea, as many know. The last
You're
thing,
Dan the sleep apnea cat.
the last thing before.
There's a certain cat who doesn't sleep well. Sleep breathing for him is a sort of a hell. He's Dan the sleep apnea cat.
there,
What's that machine on that cat's face? Well,
no, but like, so like I make a decision. Like I'm going to bed. This is the last thing I'm going to say before I put a mask on my face. And I said, I wonder what dreams about cats I'll have tonight. And then the first thing I said the next morning was. It was something about cats. I can't remember what it was. I'll have to ask Audrey. But like, she has videos of me like 2 days afterwards hysterically laughing about the word jellicle and why they kept saying it over and over again. Like me singing songs. These were like half secretly taken. Maybe I'll post them after the thing comes out. But like, my social media was all about cats. I just descended into cat madness.
you did get cat scratch fever, Dan. Your Twitter was just about cats.
But
for a while.
I have not laughed at something so hard and had such a fun time in years and years and years. And you have to just like face yourself at a certain point. If you've had that good a time watching a movie, you just like that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what, Dan? I'm going to suggest we skip straight to recommendations because my recommendation for this episode is Cats. Like, I think maybe it's the first time I've ever said, you know what movie I'm going to recommend? The one we talked about in this movie. People got to go out and see Cats.
I will
I
say,
would recommend seeing Cats while you can see it in the theater.
Yes.
That is not expressly a call and response thing, because when we went to Alamo in LA last night, and the showing after ours was the quote unquote rowdy screening, and they were already starting to do the like call and response type things. But I think it's really fun to go with a group of people where some people might still be there to see Cats.
You want to be part of that legendary first generation of filmgoers
exactly.
to see Cats sincerely.
You want the assholes to get shushed when Jennifer Hudson does her solo. When these two fucking nutsacks sitting behind me at one, like right in the final scene of the movie, one of the guys like, this is going to be the next Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I'm like, not if you're fucking there, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, so you want to see it when you're laughing and someone behind you goes, show Skimbleshanks some respect.
No, but I came to a realization. I'm just like, I could see this movie again and again. I kind of want to own it when it comes out on
Yes.
Blu-ray.
I want to watch all of the special features. I want the commentary.
Yes.
I want everything. I want to
You want that Criterion Collection
Yes,
version.
I want to consume everything about this. There will be moments where I'm going about my day and just images from this movie pop into my head, and it just makes my whole day. When I think about Skimbleshanks spinning into dust, it makes me laugh so much. I will just Fiend of the Fell, when the way that I could not get through it even on this podcast, there was like a whole day where out of nowhere I started thinking about it on the street, and I had to stop and get into I crouched down in the middle of the sidewalk because it was making me laugh so hard.
Classic Manhattan moment.
It's truly just like the most joy that I can possibly
There's something
have.
about this. It's like seeing Cats is the first time I really felt like I understand the characters in Ringu, where it's like, oh yeah, they saw something and it infested their brain and they can't deal with anything else
Like
now.
stumbling out of that theater, I was like, how do I just go on and do normal stuff? Like, it's so boring.
I mean, yeah, that's Cats, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's a Cat's world we're just living
I
in.
have a recommendation. It feels kind of anticlimactic, but it does sort of tie into musical theater. But
As do I.
what?
She says she also has.
I have a
Okay,
recommendation
good.
You're not
that ties
alone.
in as well.
It's not.
So
it's
I don't.
not
Maybe we
5
have the same one.
recommendations for cats.
I would like.
I
to
just can't
recommend-
remember having ever seen another movie.
I would like to recommend. There's a documentary called "Best Worst Thing That Could Have Happened."
This
Is that your
was
recommendation?
literally my recommendation.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Because it's a perfect title for this movie as well.
Well, we could talk about it sort of in tandem. Then,
Yeah.
it's about the original production of "Merrily We Roll Along," the Stephen Sondheim musical that legendarily closed at 6 days or 8 days or something.
Yeah, and it was in 1981, so it's coming off of the huge success of Sweeney Todd. It was him and Hal Prince. This movie basically destroyed their working relationship. This musical basically destroyed their working relationship for a little bit. It was a really personal loss for Hal Prince because his daughter was in it. He cast his daughter in this cast because it's this musical that goes backward in time and sort of long before the last 5 years, and especially before that became a more popular structure for most movies and musicals. But it was a colossal failure, and because you're supposed to be tracking the trajectory backwards of this group of friends, and you meet them when they're these unbelievably bitter, cynical, middle-aged people, and then you go backwards. So the finale of the show is meeting them as these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed college kids. But the conceit of the show, they cast all of these 20-year-olds because they cast it like it was going to start when they're 20. And so then the show began with seeing 20-year-olds in drawn on wrinkles, old person cosplay, doing this stuff. And it just is such a failure. But the lead guy also had filmmaker aspirations and thought this was going to be a huge deal, so he took a ton of behind the scenes footage during the rehearsal process.
Yeah, and you may know the director of this film as the guy who wants to be a Broadway producer in The Muppets Take Manhattan, the human being male lead in that movie.
Not Dabney Coleman.
No. But
Okay.
He said human being, Elliot.
Good point. Yeah, he's a Coleman.
But the thing about the documentary is because these people were basically kids when they were cast, and they're old people now looking back on their career and looking back on this experience. It's it's flipping the musical. It's not young people playing old people looking back. It's old people actually looking back at the time that they're young people playing old people looking back. And so there's all this genuine, emotional feeling about the way time passes and what it means. And also it's interesting to see they're very successful people in the cast. Jason Alexander was in the cast.
Giancarlo Esposito was in the
and then there are
cast.
People for whom this kind of was a dead end in their career, and both of those groups of people have major regrets about their lives, and it's sort of in a depressing way. It shows that you can do anything with your life and still kind of look back on these things with regret, but still also, have wonderful memories. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have other
Even
things?
if you're all alone in the moonlight?
Yeah.
No, it's just great. It's just great. I'm so glad that was yours too.
Oh, that's funny.
It's a really good one. It's available to watch on Netflix anytime. It's really, really excellent and heartbreaking. And also the score of Merrily We Roll Along is great. So there is a very good song for you in Merrily We Roll Along, Elliot. You would do a very good Franklin Shepard Inc.
He would be an awesome Franklin Shepard
I've
Inc.
been saying it for years.
That is a good-
I
that
love
is a-
Merrily.
It's one of those shows that I've always been meaning to listen to music, and I just haven't.
That
It
is
was
a-
one of my high school yearbook quotes.
Oh, yeah?
I was deeply unpopular.
No, it was one of mine. What a time to be starting out. What a time to be alive.
I like that song very much. And I saw what I think is a pretty good production of the musical recently, but I don't really like the musical that much, despite liking a lot of Sondheim's stuff. But
Right.
but the documentary on it made me appreciate it a lot more.
Absolutely. I also recommend there's a video of Rala Sparza doing Franklin Shepherd Inc. That is, I think, the best version of that
I think
song.
you'll relate to it because it's about somebody who cannot stand their writing partner, and it's very much our relationship.
Tell me
I
about
think.
it. Finally, someone's put my thoughts and feelings into words and music.
Yeah, outside of when it comes to my recommendation this week, outside of Disney Plus's Encore, I don't have much musical theater related. But
I want to see that.
Stuart, we have to do it's great. It's great. Between younger the last time I was here and Encore
we'll do our
now.
younger podcast and then our Encore podcast. I'm going to recommend a classic Stewart movie. I'm going to recommend the 2019 remake of the movie Black Christmas. This is the original Black Christmas was a foundational slasher movie. It was remade back in 2001 or 2. And it was recently remade. It was co-written by friend of the Flophouse and Max Fun alum April Wolfe. It is a kind of a modern take on the sorority slasher. It's fun. It's gross, and it provides a different perspective on that kind of a horror movie. I don't want to go too into the plot, and I also recommend not watching the trailer because it kind of goes too into the plot. But if you get a chance, if you like horror movies and you also are interested in watching horror movies from a female perspective, I would totally check out Black Christmas.
Anyone else or just cats?
Jenny, do you have another recommendation?
Sincerely, just cats.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's 2 for cats. Yeah.
All right.
I feel like Just Cats is underselling it, Dan.
Oh, I mean,
Only cats.
it was my theatrical
Forever cats.
Now and
experience of
forever.
the decade.
Just while it's still in theaters, go in theaters.
Yeah.
Go have that experience.
The image that was on all the ads and the posters is these 2 cat's eyes, and the pupils are people dancing, and it's I feel like that's what my eyes must look like all the time. Is just cats dancing in them constantly.
I want to go again. It was like a ride.
Yes. Oh, also,
guys-
please watch. There's a commercial for the Broadway production of Cats where they did a tie-in against drunk driving, and it's all the cats warning people against drunk driving, and they're like, if you're a drunk driver, you could kill a child. Please don't let a child be just a memory. It literally comes in. It's insane, and I hope that you do that as the play out of this, because really just the audio even will give it to you. It's incredible. It's incredible. Everything related to cats is my life now. Cats is my god and my disease.
We'll quickly do some just plugging for
Some
the show
vocal
and the network
exercises?
before saying goodbye to everyone and thanking our guests. But go to MaximumFun.org, listen to the other shows on our network. They're all wonderful. Switchblade Sisters. The
Yeah,
one that
do it.
April Wolfe
Who
does.
shot you?
Other movie podcasts, if that's your thing, man. Go to iTunes, give us a good review. We hope. Tweet about us, tweet about cats like I've been doing for the past 2 weeks.
Leave a nice review for us on iTunes.
Yeah.
Why not?
And we should thank our 2 guests.
Oh, yeah.
Jenny Jaffe and Natalie Walker. Our great editor is Jordan Cowling. We are a product of us on the Maximum Fun Network. As Dan said, listen to those. And, guys, I hate to break it to you, but what were you say, Dan?
No, I
before
wanted to extend our guests a bit more of a fulsome thank you for being on the show, because it would not.
Look, Dan, usually you don't even want to introduce.
It would not
so
be.
I'm just surprised.
We would not have had.
Yeah, I hand
such,
you their credits and you throw it in the garbage.
We would not have had such a fun time, nor would it have been such a good show without Natalie and Jenny. Do you guys have anything you want to plug before we sign off?
No,
Truly
please
just the movie
see
Cats.
Okay, just see cats.
They're just spreading the gospel of
Plugging
cats.
cats.
Please.
Well, guys, I unfortunately have to go. I was chosen as the jellicle choice.
Oh,
for this
you?
evening.
Oh,
You're the
great.
worst.
Meows tough.
Thank you. And I'm Elliot, the culturally Jewish cat. And I have there's been a hot air balloon with a chandelier under it waiting for
There's
me.
got to be
this
some
whole
kind of
time.
gefilte
Your
fish
dances
joke.
are just batting at a dreidel. You're putting it under the sofa.
You have the curls.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, we've really figured out this Jewish cat.
I guess that's it, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Cats is kind of now
so
forever.
who are
but
you?
This is it for
Oh,
Flophouse.
sorry. I've been Dan McCoy.
I've been Stuart Wellington.
And I'm Elliot Kalin, the ending the show cat.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Meow.
Macavity.
Ineffable.
Magic.
All the sky is dark, for all the stars are in Flophouse Theater.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.